Chapter 1, Young Yunshi had a dream. In the dream, there was a young girl guarding the entrance between heaven and earth as she coldly looked ahead. 3 strands of icy blue hair stood upright on her forehead, her slender braided hair was hanging behind her. Her cuffs were inlaid with steel blue gems, with a double-edged sword sheathed with a pendant on it, was hanging on her waist. She gave off a very ice-cold and alienating aura. While she was inserting her huge blue slanted sword back into its sheath. That sword made her slender body seem even more slender. Her blade also seemed to give off a cold silvery white aura. Just the sword hilt alone was over 1/2 meter long. The hilt of the sword and the edge of the blade seemed to share a single central connection point. The point seemed to be a circular compass, and in the middle of that compass was a huge keyhole. Apparently, something was sealed there. Who are you? For what reason do you always appear in my dream? The young girl seemed to have opened her mouth to say something to Yunshi. A pity, Yunshi was unable to understand what she was saying as it was not the language of the White Lotus Sword domain. Of course, his sword domain's language was different from other languages in other domains. And although it was very strange, it was pleasant to hear. Yunshi stretched out his hands, apparently trying to touch the young girl who has been appearing in his dreams. Shuffle. In a split second, Yunshi's consciousness began to fade away, only leaving behind a piece of blue light from the double-edged sword. You do not have the qualifications to open this gate. She closed her eyes as she killed another unknown spirit. Oh, my. Yunshi rolled out of bed and firmly hit his head against the dresser. A group of golden stars began to circle around his head. That dream again. As he began to knead his swollen temples, Yunshi felt even more helpless. As the saying goes, what you read is what you dream, but Yunshi swore that he had never seen such a huge blue double-edged sword before, as well as the beautiful young lady. Such a special young lady. Even if he met her once, it would be impossible to forget. Her face and her cold expression, even though it was just a dream, it left Yunshi with an extremely deep impression. Unfortunately, at the end of each dream, Yunshi was hacked to death. Fortunately, it was just a dream. Forget about it. That kind of girl, it would be impossible for me to come in contact with her. Yunshi comfortably stretched out his arms and opened the window. The window, being old, issued a creaking sound as it opened. The early spring sunshine fell into the narrow room, dispelling the humidity. Good morning, world. Yunshi put his hands together as he looked out his window, only to see that the morning market was already bustling. Happy birthday, Yunshi. Today, Yunshi turned 16. It was truly a day worth celebrating. In the White Lotus Sword domain, the age 16 represented the beginning of youthhood while age 18 represented adulthood. Though he could not drink, he has already been accepted by the community and could work as an employee. He could also have an independent identification and choose his career. Of course, those of the nobility had chosen the route for their future career ages ago. However, only at the age of 12 would they display their talent. They received the best education and the best teachers. Starting from the basics, they would have surpassed others and this gap would only grow larger over time. Ordinary children, unless they had a peerless talent, would not be able to compete against those of the nobility. This was the harsh truth of society. The Sword Palace in the White Lotus Sword domain was composed of 90% nobility, while the ordinary children took up the remaining 10%. One could not blame the Sword Palace's partiality, as the gap was just too big. Although all the Sword Palaces began to recruit disciples at the age of 16, the exam was basically fair. Only the most outstanding from the many ordinary geniuses would have a chance to be chosen by a Sword Palace. Of course, that sort of thing and Yunshi didn't have any relationship. Because he did not want to follow the way of the sword, it would be highly unlikely for him to attend the Sword Palace exam. His career also had nothing to do with the sword. Well, let's prepare for today's practice. He was not a swordsman, so there was no need to concern himself with the Sword Palace exams. Yunshi's life was a simple and happy life, filled with many common expectations. His practice was not that of fencing, but rather, the practice of making bread. Yes, he was just an ordinary young child of an ordinary couple. He wasn't going to become some talented hero. He was born to an ordinary baker's family, brought up with ordinary parenting. He inherited his family's bakery and was preparing to become his family store's next owner. This was Yunshi's main life goal for the future. His parents were in their 50s when they had him. Yunshi grew up listening to his neighbors speak about how he was not born from his parents and that he was picked up from a garbage heap. Of course, he had long known that this was an adult's way of joking. A crane sent you to our home. When he heard those rumors for the first time though, his nose began to run. As far as Yunshi was concerned, they were the world's most adorable couple. Now, the couple was traveling the world, relieved that the store would operate smoothly under his hands. Making bread was a talent, and Yunshi's handmade bread had quite the reputation. The store had always been lacking in supply with such huge demands, as he had long ago surpassed his parents. Looking at how amazing Yunshi was, his parents passed down the family bread store to him and gave him full control over it, as they went off to enjoy a golden wedding honeymoon. Today was when Yunshi turned 16 and was the only one with a third-ranked bread evaluation. People from major cities would also come to try to buy his family's bread store for 10 times the price. Yunshi refused because he was fond of this village along with its roads and stream, and of this ordinary bread store. The world was huge, the gods' domains in the universe numbered in the tens of millions, but this was the only home for him. He wanted to spend his life here. Here was Yunshi's family store, Yunshi's most beloved home. Unsurprisingly, he can spend his whole life here and perhaps, as a newlywed, he would travel over the Star Bridge to go to the other side of the sword domain. However, he would ultimately return with his other half and live out the rest of their days here. This future wasn't far away and already Yunshi wanted to spend his life with the girl of his dreams. With the temperature of his hands, he began to knead the dough well. Calculating the correct ratio of flour and sugar, coupled with a good egg, then he finally put it in the oven. The fresh bread that was taken out from the oven in the early morning and was then arranged on top of Yunshi's counter. 3 croissants coming up. 5 pineapple bread. 10 carrot meals. Yunshi's bread shop had only been open for a quarter of an hour, but Yunshi's handmade bread sold out nice and clean. The only thing remaining was the cheap white bread. Sitting behind the nearly empty counter, Yunshi had a smile on his face. For a baker, there is nothing that could make him happier than having his customers love his bread. As a third-ranked baker, although his position was not as great as the lowest sword palace's swordsman, in a small village like this, his talent could be said to have been the rarest talent of the century. Many people believed that Yunshi could truly make history by becoming the first person to obtain a fourth-ranked job. Little she, bread. A crisp bell-sounding voice along with cheerful feet charged into the quiet bread shop. Running in was someone close to Yunshi's age. The beautiful young girl with the ponytail exuded an air of youthfulness. She had a long ponytail while near her waist was a long and simple cyan sword. She had black moon-like eyelashes with a pair of warm black eyes. Because of the strenuous exercises, her naturally small lips pursed up as if she was endlessly gasping for air. The outline of her bent body was truly beautiful. When she laughed, her smile was like a sparkling crescent moon. Hua Hua, you want butter bread? Yunshi skillfully took out the butter bread he had made so elaborately. As it was always bought by customers immediately once he presented them on the counter. Like feeding a puppy, he threw it to his childhood sweetheart. Hua Hua tiptoed to bite at the bread Yunshi threw. The two had over a decade of mutual understanding. I love you, little she. Remember to increase the physical strength of the rye bread at noon for me. Enjoying the tribute Yunshi gave her, Hua Hua ran out of the small bread store like the wind. To come and go in such a hurry is just like her general temper, always loud. A summer storm would roughly describe this girl. Like Yunxi, she was also a child genius that everyone was proud of. Hua Hua moved to village 10 years ago. It was said that she was born from a lineage of the night god's domain. She was also the first genius to ever become a third-ranked swordsman before the age of 16 since the beginning of history. Being a swordsman of the third rank was worlds away from Yunxi's third rank because this was the White Lotus domain, a sword domain belonging to the countless gods' domains. It doesn't matter which sword domain of the countless gods' domains you came from or the sword skill you practiced, only those who left behind a united sword path or formed their sword spirit could receive utmost respect in a sword domain. For a senior swordsman, becoming the divine sword god that transcended all under the heavens was everything. The godly swordsman was called a sky sword, and they dominated in supremacy, being an unparalleled swordsman. From trainees with no name, to becoming official soldiers of the first rank, to elite soldiers, and even officers of the second rank. They represented the standards on the White Lotus sword domain. The third-ranked Hua Hua was already walking forward on an extraordinary road, truly worthy of being named the village's first expert. At the same time, she was also Yunxi's first love. P.S. Volume 1, from C1 to C62, Volume 2, from C63 to C144, Volume 3, from C145 to C244, of Starchild Escapes Arranged Marriage. Chapter 2, The Loving Jealous Childhood Sweetheart. Unfortunately, time is running out. Looking at Hua Hua's freshly blossoming figure leave, Yunxi laughed to himself. Although their occupations were both at the third rank, a fighting occupation represented a whole new level. As a third-rank baker, he could make delicious bread. However, his best work was butter bread, like the one he gave Hua Hua a while ago. Adding extra strength was his handmade bread special ability, and he could only make 10 a day. Although Hua Hua was only of the third rank, with her thousand-sword technique that had a rare balance of attack and defense, she was publicly accepted as a true master. Hua Hua and Yunxi could easily understand each other with nothing more than a word or two. Thus, Yunxi had already begun to put the bread in the oven. Third-ranked Hua Hua was sure to enter the White Lotus Sword Domain Sword Palace. She wouldn't even need to take the exam. As a third-ranked swordsman, she would excel among her peers at the Sword Palace. Well, you might as well consider the rest of the candidates too. He was reluctant to part with his childhood sweetheart. Yunxi began to seriously ponder about his future as well as the future of the other candidates. Although he was not like Hua Hua, who possessed the talent to become a hero, he had the skills to make bread and has received the acknowledgement of the people. There were even several young bashful girls who wanted to convey their feelings to him. But, not knowing why, a short while later, Yunxi became awfully confused. The young lady from the flower shop down the street, Meiliai, was a gifted 12-year-old, being able to talk at the age of 3. The neighboring town's gem store's eldest daughter Elphyllis recently turned 17. The last time I visited, the store manager wanted me to immediately marry her. The cake shop across the street has an awfully adorable daughter, Yi Li. Unfortunately, she was only 9 this year. Yunxi counted his fingers, calculating the potential girlfriends he could pursue. By the way, he was not being unfaithful. Up until now, he was head over heels for Hua Hua. Those feelings were absolutely not fake. But, Hua Hua was destined to become a dazzling heavenly star as a truly talented swordsman while he decided to stay in this small town that was rooted to the ground. The two were fated to have different talents, destined to be apart. They will be lovelorn, and even though Yunxi consciously knows that he will be dejected, he will not let Hua Hua stay. Rather, he chose to smile and let her go. Such a genius like Hua Hua was not meant to stay in this small town. At that time, I must smile and send her off. Yunshi patted his face, reminding himself of what to do when the time came. That day was not far away, as the Sword Palace exams are going to be held next week. For the entire Balian Sword Domain, it was a very crucial day. Countless children on that day will be showcasing their talents and strength, proving that they were not worthless. Countless poor children will also strive to do their best to catch a big break and become the carp that leaps over the dragon's gate. The Sword Palace exams were only open to teenage girls aging from 16-18 years old. After that time period, you could only try your luck at other sword schools. In the Balian Sword Domain, the Sword Palace represented supreme honor, along with other schools and palaces. In the entire Balian Sword Domain, none could compare to the Sword Palace. Looking over the numerous hills, one would see that the Sword Palace stood at the apex of them all, standing at the supremacy. The word sword in Sword Palace itself is a part of the Sky Sword God Domain. Following the owner of the Sky Sword, it was founded as the most powerful sword schools and clans. In the White Lotus Sword Domain, and even in the entire Sky Sword God Domain, the main focus of the people living there is the sword. Even the shape of every sword domain is in the form of a sword. If the Sword Palace had to be defined on a sword, then it would be located at the tip. Yunshi, along with every large clan, prestigious families, cities, and towns, had no choice but to live at the very bottom of the sword, the hilt. As for the blade itself, that would be the other schools and forces. This was the way of the sword domains of God. The hilt for the people, the tip for the Sword Palace, and the rest of the other powers. Between sword domains is a star bridge that acts as a connector. The Sky Sword God Domain is like one unique big sword, as it's made up of countless sword domains. Located at the very top of the Sky Sword God Domain was naturally the owner of the Sky Sword, the Palace Master of the Sky Palace. One of the lowest of the countless sword domains of God is the White Lotus Sword Domain, which was not a highly ranked sword domain. However, the White Lotus Sword Domain possessed a special secret gem. Because of this, it caused the White Lotus Sword Domain's Sword Palace's name to be renowned throughout the vast sword domains of God. Every time the White Lotus Sword Domain's Sword Palace held an exam, geniuses from the upper sword domains would also come rushing to participate. Of course, everyone except Yunshi. The Sword Palace's exams were also to target those upper domain geniuses who had an eye out for their secret gem. However, to Yunshi, that was just like floating clouds. He had no interest. He was going to continuously temper himself to make bread so that he would advance to a 4th-rank bread maker, thus becoming the youngest in town to ever achieve a 4th rank in a life. Stuff like baker, seamstress, etc., anything not related to the sword or cultivating occupation. Many would get married when they are 18 years old, the best time to be able to give birth to a boy and a girl. Yunshi wanted to expand his store, little by little, and pass it down from generation to generation. That was Yunshi's life goal. Yes, I like you. From the ocean of many, I fell in love with you at first sight. Beautiful, can you smile for me? Humming from the west of God's domain, Yunshi began to prepare the ingredients to make the afternoon bread. It was important to have everything you need. Step. 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 A familiar footstep sounded near the door as it powerfully kicked the door open. Little Shi, I forgot something. The morning exercises caused Hua's cheeks to turn bright red as she held onto her knees for support, gasping for air, as she looked at the confused Yunshi. If you're talking about the bread, there is none left. If he knew, he would have given some more to Hua. Unfortunately, that wasn't so. Not bread. Hua's eyes crossed, burning, as she stared firmly at Yunshi. What happened? Yunshi tried to make out what was going on. Besides the white flower on him, nothing was amiss. It's your heart. Just a moment ago, you were being unfaithful. TL note, Oh, you forgot y'all understood each other well. Busted. I heard your soliloquy. Miley from the flower shop down the street, Phyllis from the gem store in the neighboring town, as well as the adorable Faylee from the cake shop across the street. I'm saying you were not being faithful. Hua Hua's face seemed contorted as she was aware of the unfaithfulness. Do not quibble. Yunxi was barely able to squeeze a sentence out. The truth is, how did you know? In regards to Hua Hua's jealousy radar, it was so incomparably sharp that it left Yunxi stunned. As a child to present day, so long as he showed even the littlest of affection for another girl, his heart rate would change. Just a little hazy amount of favoritism and Hua Hua would discover it and arrive immediately. Uncle and Auntie repeatedly warned me to never let you get carried away. One look at Hua Hua and Yunxi could tell that she was panting with rage. He already had her as a childhood sweetheart, why can't he be satisfied? As a child, one does not make an appointment to get married in the future. Childhood sweethearts was of course, naturally, and for Yunxi, the memories of the last 10 years together was more precious than any treasure. In order to beat back those girls who were attracted to Yunxi and madly wanted to get close to him, she had no choice but to practice to the third rank, becoming the first true master of the town. Yunxi was a big idiot. After all, he wasn't aware of how attractive he was to other girls. But to protect him and cover him from those who harbored errant thoughts and older sisters who wanted to eat him up, she completely wiped them out, leaving nothing behind. Ever since they were children, Yunxi had yet to discover that he was very attractive to girls. And even back then, in primary school, on every Valentine's Day, the number of girls who lined up to give him chocolate could easily form a squadron. I was found out. Yunxi remained silent after saying that, as he thought about Hua Hua's reaction. She had to have some magical ability, clairvoyance. Stupid. Countlessly saying that you will only marry me. Hua Hua took out her long sword and directed it at Yunxi's neck. Don't marry me and I'll give you a bloody ending. Well, the perfect Hua Hua, the genius Hua Hua, the town's pride Hua Hua had one small shortcoming. She was incredibly jealous. It truly caused her childhood sweetheart to have terrible headaches. At the end of the business day, Yunxi closed up and prepared for tomorrow's sales. After Yunxi inspected the store, he headed up to the second floor to go to his room. The small family store had already been passed down for 4 generations. The wooden staircase was somewhat old-fashioned because as one went up, it issued a creak. Creak. Sound. But for Yunxi, it was something he was fond of. Hua Hua, you really need to go. In the mornings of the past, Hua Hua always played pranks on Yunxi, but he never paid any attention to it until she started to switch to her sword. Her simple cyan long sword's hilt was engraved with a white lotus. The White Lotus Sword Palace gave all its disciples a sword. And just like Yunxi, Hua Hua decided to advance and obtain the Sword Palace's approval. A 16-year-old third-rank combatant was far beyond the Sword Palace's entry requirement. Even her sword was one that only elite disciples could get, showing that Hua Hua's talent was genuine. Sure enough, childhood sweethearts can't get married. Although he was only 16 years old, he had already decided to inherit the family business and to become a bread store owner. Yunxi sighed, abandoning an unrealistic fantasy. He and Hua Hua were not fated to be together. They met at the age of 6. It's already been 10 years of school, and having graduated not too long ago, they began to choose their future. The 16-year-old Yunxi and Hua Hua have already begun to embark on different paths. Really, is the cake shop's Faylee better? Yunxi laid on his bed, looking out his window at the stars. On the table near the window was a very small cake with a candle on it. Of course, Yunxi prepared his own birthday cake. At 12 o'clock tonight, he would officially be 16. Tonight, would he dream of the maiden guarding the gate? For Yunxi, turning 16 was nothing special. Perhaps every day of his life would be like today, ordinarily passing by. Closing his eyes, Yunxi began to wish. He had a dream relating to the stars. TL note. Starchild. I wonder, 1. Improper thoughts, ulterior motives. Chapter 3, Heavenly Dream. The starlight filled the sky, from hundreds of millions of light-years away, through countless journeys, the gap between dream and reality was shining on Yunxi's body. The beautiful nebula, the long river of stars, was revolving around Yunxi, flowing around him. The stars came together and issued a sound to Yunxi. In the distant sky, countless of stars radiated in joy, converging together over the small town, forming a beautiful and brilliant sea of stars. Infinite radiance fell from the sky as if it was bestowing upon this small town an unlimited amount of blessings from the stars. At that moment, the motionless wheels of time revolved again. Yunxi heard the voices of the stars in the sky. A blessing, but also a warning. Be careful, almost there, they are searching this star domain, scheduled awakening at 18, moved up, warning, hurry and complete the trials, otherwise you will be consigned to eternal damnation. Who was that? What's awakening at 18? Hurry up and complete the trial. What trial? Yunxi opened his sleepy eyes, finding that he was in his bed, not floating amidst the starry sky. The brilliant golden-red sun, the magnificent silver-white moon, bright shining stars, all surrounded him. Which contained countless information, almost causing Yunxi's head to burst. The sun, the moon, and the stars all revolved around him. Among the stars was a silhouette similar to his figure. It was like looking at an image of himself on the water's surface. Amongst the brilliant starry sky, a group of stars emitted a distant and ancient light that illuminated the deep dark void. Inside the endless void was a young boy adorned in white garments, embracing a golden puppy, two who have yet to come out from their cocoons. It was a sight to see as endless amounts of starlight encircled them. This time, it shall be done. A bright group of stars radiated once as Yunxi felt that the youngster's heart was filled with worries. It was as if something misfortunate was about to happen to him. Woo! The youngster's dog restlessly whimpered. Afraid, it used its paws to block its eyes. Apparently, it could not bear to look at what was about to happen. The stars continued to shine. Yunxi did not know why, but he suddenly understood the stars' collective warning to him. Every time the group of stars sparkled, he began to slowly advance away from death. TL note, the he here is the youngster in white. Some near the end of their lifespan even took the initiative to detonate into countless pieces of meteors to cover up his escape tracks. However, it was no use, everything has already come to an end. It was the end of the line. Why die? Who will kill him? Who will kill him? Yunxi from the water mirror looked at the youngster, full of questions. With the meteor shower, little guy, are you afraid? The youngster in white raised the puppy in his arms. Up till now, the only one who accompanied this leftover was this little god. Woo! The golden puppy gleamed with tears as it cried, looking at its owner. It tried hard to bite down on its teeth to not make a sound. Clearly, it had already been extremely afraid earlier, however, it had to endure from not speaking out by nature. You're a good girl. The young boy kissed the little god who was the last to have stayed by his side, then showed a determined expression. Nowhere to go, in that case, they could only accept the fate of the trial. Fortunately, because he had already anticipated this bitter blood ending, he was ready in advance. Go, you will have good luck. Intentionally escaping to this small void was not without any reason. He had long left behind a legacy, it was now time to play his role. As a golden light flashed, the golden puppy disappeared from the young man's hands, carrying the seeds of hope for the future. Soon after, the other two in the cocoon who have yet to come out were also thrown into the vast starry sea, disappearing into the starry sky. I hope you can properly grow up. Although I don't know when I'll be able to meet you again, but so long as I'm alive, we will surely meet again. Letting go of the three little ones, the white youngster muttered to himself, exposing gentle and soft eyes, "The stars will protect you until I return one day." Rumble. From the midst of a group of stars, an immense silhouette appeared. It was big enough to cover an entire star domain. It passed through the barriers between dimensions as it was certainly a powerful force. Above all, even the heavens would have to fear this mighty force. In front of Yunxi, the stars began to change and form characters, countless writings that displayed the broken groups of great life forms. In the entire starry sky, those who possessed the highest existence of power were very few and could be counted on one's fingers were overlords. She was one of those overlords. Dragon God Yasha, ruler of the star dragons, dragon lord of the domain of God. She is the dragon of order, the mother of time and space, the creator of God. And at the same time was the symbol of birth, life, and death. Yasha's true body was the dragon of the void, housed and immersed in the light of the stars. She had a pair of gem-like black wings, as there were endless amounts of stars shining on her wings. They were real stars, encompassing the wings of the dragon of order as her children. Her scales were pitch black, like the color of the void between the stars. However, her skin shined bright, like stardust. Her eyes shone with a gentle silver color like a beautiful gemstone. Her tail was made up of numerous scales, each scale was a young dragon waiting for her to awaken them. All miracles, all words of praise, could be imposed on her. She was the myth of the stars, an eternal legend. At last, I found you. This time, you must pay the price. Arriving from across the stars and eventually locked onto Yasha's goal. She said so slowly, but still, the world trembled under her voice. Yasha, sister, the youngster was filled with helplessness. Before the youngster could open his mouth to explain, 3 different forces crossed over the star river to arrive at the void. From within the first ray of light, was an ancient floating city. The city of Sigil, which connected with many worlds, appeared as a woman covered with a veil coldly looked over. This was the ancient root of pain, the god of the unknown, the nameless lady, owner of the city. In the second ray of light, was an endless black ocean that was constantly churning. From time to time, there was a body with a huge tentacle that appeared, it was indescribable. This was beyond the description of terror. The incarnation of disorder and primordial chaos, the Naya domain. In the last ray of light were colors radiating the heavens and earth. There was a huge stone at the side, rapidly writing down rules and sealing off this void. She was the stone slab of Ionia and had endless avatars. She was known as the god above gods, the master of endless domains and the organizer of the market of gods and demons. Come here. Yasha shouted. Become mine. The nameless lady didn't fall behind. And I am all for it. Naya impolitely stated. Declare that you are my precious treasure, to be loved by the god of man. Declared the stone slate of Ionia, on behalf of fate. Next, Yunxi witnessed a very desperate, very cruel, and very gorgeous event. The star domain nearly collapsed from the after effects of the conflict. The 4 overlords attacked each other violently for some reason that Yunxi didn't know. Then, the young boy who miserably met with this misfortune had an indescribable bad end. He was killed by the 4 overlords together, torn into many pieces by some method Yunxi couldn't understand. The body of the youngster began to fall apart, turning into a pure white transparent jade light. It emitted a flawless soul as if it was the world's most beautiful gemstone. Thousands of lights flew apart in the sea of stars, running to the endless corner of the void. The four overlords began to snatch up the pure white transparent jade lights. Only a few lights successfully escaped under the cover of the stars. That night, the stars cried for him. Yunshi could feel from the rotating starlights that all the starlights were trying to protect the young boy, but they finally retreated under the coordinated attack of the four overlords. Today's dream was truly different. Chapter 4. The three spirits truly, to die so miserably in the end. What kind of heaven-angering crimes did the youngster commit? To go as far as having the four overlords dispose of him and carry out such a bloody ending. Seems to be because they wanted to take something away from him. Today's dream and the past dreams are completely different. However, it was quite brilliant. Choose, the time has come. Countless stars converged together to voice their anxious reminder to Yunshi. Choose what? Still thinking that it was still all just a dream, Yunshi was confused. Choose your spirit. Choose, there isn't any time left. The voice that sounded in Yunshi's ears seemed to have the ancient memory of the stars, but one thing was made clear to him. He was going to choose something important, something that will change his life. So much so, that it will even change the path of the stars. There was no room for escape, he had to immediately make his choice. Choosing 3, the ancient heavenly river connected 3 different paths, indicating 3 different trials. Every road represented a choice. At the same time, there were 3 cocoons emerging in front of him, corresponding to 3 different roads. Within every cocoon was a spirit, each emitting their respective attribute. Waiting for Yunshi's choice. The first cocoon was pitch black, it had the darkest color, the same as the dark abyss. You could faintly see tiny purple demon wings, as the spirit was emitting a demonic attribute. In there, the deepest abyss is waiting for you. It's a boundless dark corridor. Once you choose it, you can never turn back and will become the Dark Lord, reigning the endless darkness. The second cocoon was misty milky white. There were countless clouds and misty winds swirling around in it. A fairy was sleeping in a huge stone tablet while holding a lantern. Beyond the beginning of obscurity, at the first second of being born of the world, a being named Primordial was born. Here's the place where the steel of the heavens fell asleep. If you choose this path, you can lord over the universe, to be a free and unfettered immortal. Finally, there was the golden elf cocoon. It emitted a faint golden radiance and was the most beautiful cocoon. Like the sun that will rise from the ground every day, even if I'm surrounded by the relentless darkness, I will also break it by using my mutilated body. Like the night that will come every day, even if I'm troubled due to the twisted fate today, I still believe that the world will never change. Only we will be changed. The truth that we are still alive is our strongest weapon. Son of the stars. If you wish to continue to walk on this path and choose this road, it means that you will face the most awful and terrifying enemy. The 3 paths, 3 choices. There are no right or wrong, good or bad, just 3 kinds of destinies. Demon Lord, Immortal, Starchild. Yunshi hesitated for a long time until he ultimately placed his hands on the golden cocoon. Maybe it was the endless starlights that surrounded and guided him, to make him move and wish for it. He hoped that he could also obtain the light of the stars someday. Pop! The golden light cocoon broke open, as the other 2 trials disappeared before Yunshi. However, Yunshi could still feel their existence, perhaps there will be a fate. From the golden cocoon came a delicate, small, and tenderly attractive young girl. She had a pair of big timid eyes, with golden dog ears. Her slender body didn't match with her body's fully developed chest. Plus with her pitying-like expression, it was hard for one to not reach out and console her. Especially those golden ears, possessing a magical quality that people would spend money to buy. Taking a glance at Yunxi, she expressed an indescribably joyful expression, while appearing like she wanted to cry. Boo-hoo, master. Don't leave Mayor, this time I will do my best. The crying young girl jumped into Yunxi's arms, stretched out her little tongue and licked his face. He looked at her clear, lively, kind, and innocent eyes from a short distance. She gently shook her long and arched eyebrows, which was 100 times cuter than he imagined. Her petite pink, soft, and creamy body was rubbing up against his body. Especially, her rosy and soft small mouth. Yunxi had a dizzy feeling when he tasted it. She was like a puppy. This was the first impression Yunxi had towards the star elf, Mayor, he chose. It was unlikely for him to say that his first encounter with Mayor was an utter defeat. Her mouth's sweet and unctuous saliva, caught by her entangling tongue, licking and sucking that could be felt all the way to this poor one's soul. You are called Mayor. Mayor licked his cheeks till they became dripping wet. After Yunxi was taken away from the most fantastic kiss in his life, he embarrassedly grabbed the little girl's shoulder. She really did have a very petite body, she was only to Yunxi's chest. Those golden dog ears and tail, because she was excited, was unceasingly shaking in such an adorable way. Yes. I'm Mayor, the star spirit. Mayor nestled in Yunxi's arms like a spoiled little child. He felt as if she was another little dog he had to feed. As for the first dog, of course, she was Hua Hua, who was always so lively, healthy, and hyperactive. She had to eat Yunxi's bread every day, otherwise, she would be listless all day, which made Yunxi worry about her life after she went to the Sword Palace. Can you tell me, this is a dream, so how did I come here? Up till now, Yunxi had a kind feeling that this all didn't feel real. He, in accordance with his heart, made the choice, but he still didn't understand why. Perhaps because this was all just a dream, he could make a choice without considering the consequences. Ah, that's because my past master died. Mayor held on to Yunxi, enjoying the smell of his body. Her happy facial expression was like that of someone who was high on drugs. Who's dead? Yunxi felt that something was wrong in this crucial matter. Just now, did you not see it? You were the one being killed in the memory of the stars. Mayor astonishingly looked at Yunxi. Ah, yes, it seemed that it was memories of him being killed. No wonder he had a feeling of empathy. Hold on, he was killed. That unfortunate existence whom the four overlords joined hands to send to hell, who was then finally crushed and turned into pieces of jade, was him. To die so tragically, simply a tragic ending, ah. This is not a joke, right? Yunxi began to increasingly doubt that the end was not a dream. If this was a dream, it was a nightmare, the biggest nightmare. Why did I die so horribly? First off, no matter if this was a dream or not, Yunxi wanted to know. If that youngster is him, what did he do to have provoked four overlords to join hands and kill him? TL note, by the way, if you haven't picked it up yet, all four overlords are female, ahaha. What that youngster was holding should have been the small mayor. She was so innocent and kind, like a harmless little white rabbit. This is actually because Mayor suddenly became hesitant, apparently somewhat embarrassed. They are your ex-girlfriends. Ah. Chapter 5, Frightening Girlfriends. There were countless of stars revolving in front of Yunxi. A dream, yes, it must be a dream. Yunxi was unable to imagine how crazy one would be to have four girlfriends at such a level. Unfortunately, no matter how much you hide, what is to come will come. Mayor clearly didn't understand Yunxi's current state. Thus, she was brimming with enthusiasm to tell Yunxi more of the truth that he did not wish to know about. Master is not human, rather, Master is a special child of the stars. At every death, Master will be reborn of the stars again, just like now. Master has doubted his past, right? Actually, Master has no parents. Yunshi blankly stared. If this was a dream, it was all too much of a coincidence. How would this golden-eared star spirit know such secrets? Wait. If so, could the rumors he always heard be true? I don't have parents. He was unable to accept this. Is it because what you think is what you dream? His parents obviously doted on him a lot, considering him as the world's greatest treasure. That's right, Master has no parents because you were born from the sea of stars. Every time you die, you will be reborn in some corner of the star sea soon after. Afterwards, when you are 18 years old, you will automatically get your memories back, your past. Mayor did not know why Yunshi was so shocked. It was just a simple fact. I am not father and mother's child. Yunshi was somewhat absent-minded. In fact, he had already figured it out earlier, but he just didn't want to admit it. According to his age, 16 years ago, his mother was already 50 years old. At her age, being pregnant was impossible. But he pretended not to know, as mother and father never brought it up. He subconsciously evaded to face the truth he didn't want to accept. Yes, according to common sense, mother being at 50 years of age could not have been pregnant. Starchild refers to me. Yunshi lifted up his head to see the surrounding sun, moon, and stars, the countless starlight. That was the truth of the world, the blessing of the sea of stars towards him. In that case, why am I here? Why are you here? After experiencing great difficulty in accepting his identity, an even bigger puzzle began to arise in Yunshi's mind. Just now, did he hear muttering from among the stars? If it was like Mayer said, he was supposed to awaken at 18. But it was still 2 years till he has the ability to awaken. Danger, from where? After Master died the last time, I was entrusted to the stars. Originally, it should have been at the age of 18 that Master would come around, but because Master is about to encounter a dangerous threat, the awakening happened earlier. Of course, the other reason is because Master chose Mayer. Thank you, Master. I will do my best to make you rapidly stronger. Mayer was brimming with confidence, as she puffed out her little chest with a lovable expression as if she was saying, "Leave it all to me." Mortal danger, Yunshi has heard that more than once and didn't have a good premonition about it. Who is a mortal danger to me? I have not even died once. Yunshi had a hunch that once he found the answer, his life would be completely different. Even the stars issued an early warning and sent over the 3 spirits. What kind of crisis would make even the stars hurry so much? Ah! Master, your enemies are many, but the important thing is that you have just seen 4. Has Master heard of their god names? Oh my goodness, the name of God. Yunshi had a crazy hunch. The first overlord is the master of star dragons, of the god domain of giant dragons. Known as the Dragon of Order and the Mother of Space and Time. She was the supreme dragon goddess, the symbol of birth, life, and death. The second overlord didn't have a name. She was the goddess of chaos and the symbol of the source of pain, living in the deepest part of the abyss, the world of ghosts. The third overlord was the Great Old One of Chaos. She was the indescribable terror, the avatar of old chaos, and the master of the Sea of Hell. The fourth overlord was the master of endless domains, the owner of the market of gods and demons, the creator, and the god above gods. Although there were a lot of inconveniences, the 4 spared nothing to chase and kill you. Yunshi felt like that perhaps he would die easier this time. The supreme dragon god, the god of chaos, the god of old, and the god above gods. His 4 ex-girlfriends, who were so terrifying and powerful enough to annihilate the stars and reverse time. Okay, Yunshi once heard about 2 of them. She was the god above gods, the supreme master of the entire Western god domains. She was master of hundreds of billions of god domains. the absolute and unique master of the Western God domains. As for the supreme dragon god, he knew she was the king of the North Dragon God domains. The power of dragons was so strong that even the people in such a remote eastern region, the White Lotus Sword domain, had also heard about them. As for the other two overlords, Yunshi had never heard of them. However, since they could be compared with the supreme dragon god and the god above gods, they should also be at the same level. Just now, the spirit mayor told him that 4 overlords went to kill him at the same time. What a joke. This is not a joke, right? The son of the stars, what kind of crime was committed to have provoked the 4 overlords to kill me? Even though he is bathing within the stars' radiance, Yunshi still couldn't fully remember. It was like a white piece of blank paper. So, he didn't know what he did to have angered the 4 overlords to kill him. This mayor also doesn't know. Mayor looked at Yunshi with eyes of innocence, letting Yunshi see the answer. It seemed that in the past, Master refused to marry them and caused them to be angry. In other words, they are Master's ex-girlfriends. So, they are out to kill you. Every time they find a trace of your presence, they will not let you escape. What? Yunshi's shout made the stars tremble twice. To refuse their marriage proposal, just because of that. How crazy and daring was his past self, to have provoked 4 overlords. It was like the old saying, you wouldn't die if you didn't do the wrong thing. Yunshi finally knew why the stars came to warn him so early. His 4 ex-girlfriends, if any one of them found him, it would spell no escape for him. No wonder the stars woke him up 2 years ahead of time. If he was caught, he would absolutely die. Chapter 6, The Beginning of the Trials. Because of this, Master, you have to become strong as soon as possible before they find you. Let's start your test right now. Mayor had the same fear of the 4 overlords as Yunshi. After all of them were at the rank of tearing the stars. Master was so brave. He dared to date 4 overlords at the same time. He was so worthy of being her master and loved by stars as the star child. I still have time. Yunshi's forehead was dripping with sweat. This really wasn't a joke. He didn't know what he did when he was still the star child, but now, he was just an ordinary boy brought up in the White Lotus Sword domain. He barely inherited his family's bakery and was about to face the downfall of his first love. After, he would wait till his heart healed and start a new relationship, then spend the rest of his life with her. He didn't want to have some earth-shattering story. Going through his life peacefully was the greatest hope he had. According to the warning of the stars, one of the apostles of the 4 overlords has arrived in this region. But Master, you are hiding well. She won't find you in a short time. Will the apostle leave if she can't find me? Yunshi asked with hope. No. As the apostle of one of the 4 overlords, she will have to thoroughly search through this god domain. She won't miss checking any object, even if it is just a mouse. You are hiding well, Master. But once she finds you, you won't have a chance to escape. So, what's the rank of the apostle? Yunshi asked with tears in his eyes. The subordinate of my ex-girlfriends, why are you so serious? At least, she is only a 7th rank, she's not a really powerful apostle. Perhaps she is just a vanguard. According to the vague hint from the stars, Mayor gave Yunshi a desperate answer. Not very powerful. She was only a 7th rank. Are you kidding me? A 7th rank, it was a 7th rank. He didn't know what was an apostle, but talking about a 7th rank combat profession, such a rare genius had already been deserving of a silver leaf emblem, and could even destroy the whole White Lotus Sword domain all by himself. Since the beginning of this small town's history, Hua is the most talented swordsman, who was now at the 3rd rank. She had the power of 1,000 soldiers. And the distance between a 3th rank and a 7th rank was like the distance between heaven and earth. A seventh rank would be able to hold their own against an army. That one person could easily extinguish a country. No matter how many millions of soldiers there are, no one would be able to face someone with that kind of power. As he knew it, the present master of the White Lotus Sword domain was just at 6th rank. Which meant that this unknown apostle could destroy the whole White Lotus Sword domain alone. Even in the whole Sky Sword God domain, a 7th rank was already close to the legendary hero, known as a being equaling to a natural disaster. The strongest at that rank was already some truly extraordinary creatures. They were already out of the rank of mortals. Every one of them was more powerful than true monsters. Now, was there already such a scary hunter that had gone into the Sky Sword domain? I'm done for, there's no escape. Yunshi began to calculate his savings. Even if he wanted to sell his small store, the farthest he could go would be 2 sword domains over. To escape from the Sky Sword God domain was wishful thinking. Moreover, after escaping for that moment, could he hide forever? The enemy had found the Sky Sword God domain and will soon enter. According to Mayer, the apostle was just an advanced scouter. Even if he escaped to other god domains, he being found by other apostles was still a predestined ending. To die without a burial. Yunshi saw his fate. Sure enough, there was only one road to take. As the Star Child, he left behind a legacy in the past, and Mayer spoke of the trial. Mayer opened the trial. Yunshi was mentally prepared. No matter how hard the trial, he would clench his teeth and complete it. Otherwise, he would not have a tomorrow. He did not know how the past Star Child was like, or how he was able to obtain the fury of his 4 girlfriends to join hands to chase and kill him. To live an ordinary life, to have a clear conscience and heart, to live with the girl he loves, hand in hand for the rest of his life. That was his wish, his desire. I don't want to die. I want to continue my relationship with Hua. Maybe, it was also Miley of the flower shop, Ulphyllis of the jewelry shop, and Phaley of the cake shop, if it was possible. The enemy had arrived at the Sky Sword domain. Yes, Master, it will begin. Mayer cheered, tiptoeing. Hey! Within Yunshi's field of vision, Mayer's small cherry lips were getting closer and closer. After that, their lips were tightly intertwined together. It wasn't just kissing, their body and mind had joined together. Mayer's sweet and fragrant tongue intertwined with Yunshi's, the 2 souls seemed to have linked together. Inside Mayer's body, Yunshi felt that his body was penetrated by the surrounding starlights bit by bit. This was the blessing he got after he chose the way of the Star Child, the unique genius of himself. Mayer connected him with the stars like a bridge. She guided the power of stars that came down in this remote sword domain and helped him on the way to becoming a Star Child. Goo! With the girl's sweet kiss, the scenery in front of Yunshi was continually changing. A giant roulette table started slowly rotating like the wheel of destiny, and there were many different views appearing on the rotary table. A dragon of the void bathing in the starlights looked like it was looking at something. She looked at the location of Yunshi through the giant roulette table. It was just a short eye contact through the table, and there was the shade from the starlight, but they still saw each other at the same time. She was one of his ex-girlfriends. Yunshi immediately knew her identity when he saw this giant dragon in the starlights. She truly was a beautiful dragon. To refuse her marriage proposal, he invited a calamity upon himself and died a horrible death. Yunshi was wrapped by countless of stars. With the help of the star roulette, the starlights took Yunshi away immediately. You cannot escape. The supreme dragon god, who ranked above the world, looked at the light disappearing in the stars, roaring indignantly. A small bridge, running water and waterfall. Inside a dark mountain. Boom boom boom. Yunshi opened his eyes as he heard the sound of water. He found he was squatting in front of a campfire, which was slowly burning. Out here, it was an endless darkness surrounding him. He couldn't even see his fingers. Crack! Crack! The campfire made clear sounds. It was burning with some unknown fuels, sending out a reassuring warmth. Is this the trial? Yunshi tried to move his hands and legs. He didn't know why his whole body was stiff. It seemed that the time here was a little out of balance with the biological time of his body. If he had to choose some words to describe it, it was like his breath rhythm and the rate of his heartbeat were out of place in this world. Though Yunshi wasn't even a novice swordsman, but he still tried to adjust his breathing to balance this subtle feeling of strangeness. As the saying goes, you may not see it, but you ought to have heard about it. As the childhood sweetheart of Hua, who was the best swordsman of the town, Yunshi also knew a little knack in practicing the sword by what he constantly saw and heard. Whatever the next trial was, he needed to adjust his body to his optimum state. In his imagination, it should be a very horrible and bloody death trial. Yunshi prepared himself in his heart. Jingle. As Yunshi adjusted his breathing, a euphonious voice appeared in his heart. It was his spirit, Mayor's voice. Master, the trial has begun. Starchild, love system open. Mission issued. Within the dark forest is a beautiful sleeping princess, with your kiss awaken her from her slumber. The reward for a successful love, a seed of kendo. The newbie test is the most simple. Go ahead, master. Silence, it was dead silent. Yunshi's mind went blank for a quarter hour, till he suddenly yelled out angrily, "What cursed system is this? Isn't this a trial? Sleeping Beauty, what the hell?" Chapter 7, Novice Trial. Wasn't this a trial? If this was a trial, shouldn't there be endless enemies and bloody combats? Then, he would have to kill them all, like an invincible hero. Alright, Yunshi knew he couldn't do this since he wasn't even a first-rank swordsman. However, since this was a trial in order to let him become stronger, the last boss should be the strongest, right? At the campfire, Yunshi was reborn from the fire. Master, this is the trial the stars prepared for you. They must have a reason. Mayor tried to explain. Once you finish the newbie trial, you will have a seed of kendo. Ooh. I see. Yunshi reached out his hands and patted his cheeks. Putting the last goal of the trial aside, the last reward did grasp at his heart. The seed of kendo. Just by hearing the name, he knew it was a treasure with a connection to the sword. It was worthy of a reward of the stars. Then, I will give you the target map to help guide you. Master, come on. A black and white map appeared in front of Yunshi. The dark area was temporarily not shown, as it was enveloped by an endless fog. He saw his own location, the campfire, at the beginning. Yunshi could see a dark forest at the end. He saw a green point, which symbolized that he was staying around the campfire. If he left the campfire and turned right, the path would lead to the dark forest. There was a harsh red point in the center of the path, and a similar red point at the entrance of the dark forest. In the center of the dark forest was a soft green point. Perhaps it was the Sleeping Beauty. Looking at the map, there seemed to be two enemies. The distance between the forest and the campfire was about 1 kilometer. Yunshi calculated it according to the distance he walked. Because the route was pretty simple, it didn't even have a branching road, so he didn't need to worry about losing his way. Seems like the newbie trial is quite easy. Perhaps, I only need to defeat the 2 small monsters, then I can find the Sleeping Beauty successfully. Yunshi looked at the map with optimism and soothed his nerves. This kendo seed must be something the stars prepared for novices. Additionally, he found an iron sword that was lying on the ground by the bonfire. It was clear that this weapon was the first weapon for the novices in this trial. Due to the erosion of the moisture, the sword handle had gotten a little rusty. However, its blade was still sharp. It was already enough to be used as a newbie weapon. Well, let me start the trial. Yunshi gave up thinking where the Sleeping Beauty was. He held his newbie's sword and took one step forward with courage. After crossing the small bridge and passing through the clear waterfall, Yunshi quickly found the path to the dark forest. Soon, he reached the uphill and heard some strange noises. Ping! Ping! Seems like something heavy was being knocked on the ground. Again and again, and getting closer and closer. Don't tell me, Yunshi had an ominous feeling. Looking at the map Mayer gave him, the red dots seemed to be getting closer. Soon after, Yunshi learned a lesson. That it was a complete illusion that the red point was only a little bigger than yourself. Because the scale of the map was dozens of times smaller than that of the real world. Boom! Boom! With earth-shaking steps, a giant monster, whose body was twice as tall as Yunshi, emerged from the corner. Taking his own sign as the standard, the enemy which was wandering on the center of the path, was a little bigger. It had one eye, a large head, and thick green skin. Only, its leg was way bigger than Yunshi's whole body. It opened its big mouth. Its 4 sharp teeth took aim at Yunshi while reflecting a creepy cold light. Ping! Its speed was so fast that it was in a completely different contrast with its giant body type. Especially for Yunshi, who just went into the trial and was still a little stiff, its slap was pretty powerful. With just a slap, Yunshi had been blown out like a rag doll. Afterward, the green monster trampled down upon his body. Yunshi's body turned into countless lights, and there was only a pool of red blood stains that remained. Sniff, sniff, the green monster who killed Yunshi with a slap then turned back and continued to patrol. What kind of common monster is this? Looking at the practice weapon returning to the campfire with him, Yunshi had a mixed feeling, F***ku, bitch. Wasn't this a newbie trial? Was this a monster a newbie should face? Looking at its body type, speed, and power. Even if it was a third-rank swordsman like Huahua, she couldn't promise to defeat it easily. If this monster came to the town, except for Huahua, it would be able to kill everyone with ease. The novice trial was a huge problem. This was a defiance of the natural order. Master, come on. This guy is but a piece of meat that kills lower life forms. Once Master gets the seed of Kendo, Master can easily kill 10 of them in one strike. Mayer's voice appeared to encourage Yunshi. You should help me deal with this guy so I can get the seed of Kendo. Yunshi asked his spirit, just in case he got lucky and she would give it to him. That is impossible, only you can defeat it through your own abilities. I'm not a combat-type fairy anyways. I can only support you as your system fairy. Mayer explained that she could do nothing else. So, what can you do? Yunshi didn't know what to say. Warm your bed. Mayer said shyly. Let's talk about this after I beat down this monster. Yunshi took a deep breath. His face also turned red. The fairy, warm his bed, was it too early for him to do such a thing? Sniff! Sniff! The green hippo was on patrol. It paused for a while, then shook its small tail. Was something wrong? It remembered it had killed many similar invaders on this road today. These invaders had the same characteristic, they were all holding a shoddy iron sword and their actions were so stiff, even inferior to the monkeys in the forest. It could easily knock them down on the ground with a slap, then trample them to death. Look! There was still a pool of blood left on the road. It was from the trash it killed last time. If it counted them carefully, there were already dozens of such blood stains. 37, Yunshi panted, looking at the damned green hippo. This hippo killed him 30 plus times within the time period one would use to take a shower. However, how could it be possible such an atrocious, bloodthirsty, and scary hippo exists? Once it saw you, it would give you a slap or trample on you. Luckily, Yunshi had a high tolerance and was able to endure it 37 times. 37 pools of blood stains were distributed on the narrow uphill path. The most distant one was on the top of the slope. All of them held traces of Yunshi's death. However, I have learned some important details. Between life and death, there is great terror. Every time he was slaughtered by the monster hippo, he also caught some habits of the hippo. The main attack of the hippo was its slap. In addition to its enormous size and faster speed, once he got hit by it, his fate was already doomed to be trampled to death. Its next method of attack was a continuous quirky rolling and crushing. Yunshi couldn't imagine how its giant body did this. However, every time he found it, it was already too late to defend or dodge. Except for these two methods of attack, its third method of attack was trampling, which it normally used after Yunshi lost his balance and fell down to the ground. Once he was knocked down, the mortality rate would be 100%. Yunshi's 37 death experiences would help guide him. I cannot move recklessly, I must find a gap. By paying the cost of 37 deaths, Yunshi gradually grasped the body of the hippo. He also became familiar with this world-specific rhythm. Though the perception was slow, it was not entirely a bad thing. Because, at the moment of death, we are able to see more minute details. Apparently, the passage of time slows down. Chapter 8, The Hippo Must Die. Damn it, where did this enemy come from? The hippo, confused, touched its head. Soon after, it saw the familiar figure appear from the end of the downhill path. The enemy still held his novice sword awkwardly. However, the hippo felt something was different this time. Of course, if anyone still had the courage to return to the battlefield after being killed 99 times, such as being killed by a slap 50 times, killed by trampling for 40 times, and killed by being rolled for 9 times, then he would inevitably remold himself. The 100th time, after being killed by the green hippo 99 times, Yunshi's eyes were set aflame. This was the first time in his life that he fell into such a hopeless situation. He was born in an ordinary town, had kind parents and a fervent, lively, and jealous childhood sweetheart. He never knew what war was. He hoped he could lead an ordinary life, but now, he tasted the meaning of the terror of death. And it wasn't once or twice, but a full 99 times. With his stiff body held the rusty iron sword, on a long slope not more than 100 meters long, was the first monster of the newbie trial, the damn green hippo. It killed him so many times that he started to doubt the meaning of his life. He didn't even get to see the view behind the slope, not to mention the sleeping beauty in the dark forest. Yunshi was getting angry. He had never wanted to win so much in his life. Especially the green hippo. It must die. Adjust, begin, he relaxed his body, then started running. Every time he stepped out, he felt his body becoming filled with energy. It was the feeling of being alive, his heartbeat in time's clutches. Asterisk sniff sniff. Asterisk the green hippo who had killed Yunshi 99 times opened its mouth and showed its sharp teeth. Taking the chance, it rushed over and slapped towards Yunshi. You have used the same move 99 times. Don't you feel bored? Yunshi shouted. He changed his movements as he knew the green hippo's actions, narrowly rolling to the side of the green hippo. Asterisk who? Asterisk the big palm of the green hippo made a great sound as it cut through the air, sweeping above Yunshi's head. A good chance. It was the first time that Yunshi escaped the green hippo's slap, and he directly moved to the hippo's back. In front of his eyes were the green hippo's big ass and its wiggling small tail. Without any hesitation, he brandished his sword. With his anger, the sharp blade slashed the green hippo's big ass. Asterisk hiss. Asterisk a red bloodstain appeared on the green hippo's big ass. It was the first time Yunshi hurt the green hippo since their 100 battles. As a third-rank creature, the green hippo was a giant monster with thick skin, but it could still be hurt by sharp weapons. It was still a creature in the normal range of attacks. However, the sword wound was only half a finger deep. It was just a small wound and is still far away from seriously injuring the green hippo. Asterisk boom. This time, Yunshi saw the green hippo's third attacking method. As its fat ass sat down and hit him, he already got knocked away while holding his sword. He then fell down on the ground while vomiting blood. His 100th challenge failed. Beside the campfire, Yunshi has revived again. He laughed as he gasped. Master, are you alright? Should you rest for a while? Mayor looked at Yunshi worriedly, who she thought was a little out of mind. No. I just find living itself is already a luxury. Yunshi stretched out his hands and looked at his stiff body, which was so similar to his true body. Perhaps, to use such an uncoordinated body to challenge the third-rank green hippo would indeed be painful. However, the battle before was already the greatest battle achievement Yunshi had ever gotten, and now, he had proved that this seemingly third-rank green hippo wasn't an unbeatable enemy. Even with this stiff body and this iron sword, he could still challenge this monster. Human beings, after all, had instinct, and while this monster had a different kind of intelligence, it was nothing like a human's. As long as the bonfire and sword existed, Yunshi had a chance. He was certain that he would defeat this green hippo. Again. The hippo must die. The 121st try. Yunshi's courage increased as the combat progressed. He continually rolled and brandished his sword, and stabbed the green hippo's back 12 times. The green hippo's skills included continuously slapping, suddenly rolling, and ass attacking when it found him behind itself. He knew all of these skills. Now, once the green hippo shrugged its shoulders, he would know the next was its slapping. Once it wriggled its waist, the next was its deathful rolling. Once it stuck up its ass, the next was its ass attack. I'm not afraid of you. After dodging towards the hippo's blind angle and stabbing the hippo's body for the 13th time, Yunshi was very sure that the goddess of victory had smiled upon him. Asterisk sniff sniff. Asterisk the green hippo couldn't imagine how such a weak enemy could suddenly have learned a series of combat skills such as continuous roll and backstab. It could only be explained as, between life and death, there is great terror. Anyone would naturally burst forth his potential when he came face to face with death. Moreover, it wasn't 1 or 2 times Yunshi had to meet with death. It was over 120 times. Death was the best teacher. Every time Yunshi died, he would also learn something about the attack method of the monster hippo. Finally, at the 120th time, the changes of quantity caused a change in quality. From the 120 deaths, at the 121st try, Yunshi saw through all the attack methods of the ferocious green hippo. Not only that. When the hippo used its triple attack with its ass again, he smoothly lured the stupid hippo to the side of the big tree beside the slope and planted his deadly sword 3 times on the hippo's body while it continuously knocked the big tree. Neck, waist, back, this was Yunshi's trial. 3 quick slashes toward the 3 respective weak spots. Every time it hit, the sword left behind a cut that went deep to the bone. This was the decisive blow, the strike that would bring Yunshi's victory. Asterisk rumble. Asterisk sword marks covered the green hippo's body, as it toppled over and dyed the slope in red. It's dead. After seeing the green hippo's body bleed out and topple over, Yunshi realized that the battle was over. He won. Had he really won? After escaping the slap of the green hippo for 10 times, the rolling of the hippo for 3 times, the ass attack for 15 times, and giving it 20 backstabs, the seemingly unbeatable green hippo was finally killed by Yunshi. A hand-sized green light point flew out from its giant broken body and went into Yunshi's body. After absorbing the green light point, Yunshi's body became more flexible and not as stiff as a zombie. The first mission of the novice trial accomplished. The hippo had been killed. Chapter 9. The gatekeeper of the dark forest. The corpse of the green hippo slowly turned into countless black mist and started to dissipate. Like Yunshi's death, there was only a pool of blood that remained in the center of the slope. Yunshi leaned on his iron sword. He panted heavily in the place where the green hippo had died. While he was in the fight, he didn't think about anything. However, after the combat ended, all the weariness of his body frantically burst out. The body was a living thing, and it had been used to its limit. His bones and nerves seemed to be crying due to the strenuous activities. Yunshi wasn't able to see his own face, but he imagined that it should be pretty contorted. It was really not easy. If it wasn't for the green light point that flew out from the green hippo's corpse that replenished his consumed energy, he was afraid that he wouldn't even be able to stand up. Not enough. After facing death 120 times, Yunshi now knew every part of his body. After swallowing the green point, both his body and joints flexibility had increased a lot, and now, he wasn't as stiff as a zombie. While leaning on the broken tree hit by the hippo, Yunshi closed his eyes as began to regulate his breaths, adjust his body, and savor the remaining excitement after that intense fight. The third sword timing, I was too hasty using the sword, and my step was also shifted for 3 centimeters. The seventh sword timing, I was too late and too anxious. The final 3 swords could be considered as decent enough. It took 21 slashes to kill that green hippo. Yunshi could clearly replay the scene vividly in his mind for each attack. Every mistake and every imperfect move reappeared clearly in his mind. He realized that his performance was by no means perfect. There were at least 10 minor flaws. There was even a fatal mistake of which almost cost him his life. Fortunately, that green hippo's weak point was far more obvious than his and committed more mistakes than he did. Especially the attack which made the hippo turn around, gallop forward and crash in a straight line. In Yunshi's view, this was the hippo's biggest flaw. He then used a crevice to contain this roller crusher move. Yunshi had chopped its back at least 10 times, but the final 3 slashes were the ones that dealt the killing blow. After killing this green hippo, he realized that strength was not a focal point. An accurate judgment to utilize an opportunity and the timing for his attacks were far more important, coupled with caution to not move rashly. This was the true reason why mortals needed to fight many battles and temper themselves countless times to grasp the true essence of sword arts. Relying on his superior ability to replay the scenes of the fight, Yunshi naturally grasped this aspect. Because he basically never had a tiny bit of time to relax in his fight with this green hippo. Only after immersing himself in his sword and predicting the hippo's attack in advance was he able to achieve this result. Even then, he could only defeat this beast with a rigid and stiff body. This is the fight. After dying for 120 times as the price, Yunshi had grown rapidly. Those battle-hardened veterans who fought many battles gained their experience after countless battles. Most people even died in their enemies' hands the first time they entered the battle. The experience to live through life and death situations was the most profound and most precious experience. Death, terror, Yunshi tightly gripped his rusty iron sword. A special feeling grew in his heart toward this nameless rusty sword. Without this rusty sword, he couldn't injure the green hippo. Even if there was 10 of him, it was impossible to defeat that ferocious beast. A sword is a tool and weapon, it could be used to commit crimes, and it was also used as a weapon to kill. Revering the sword, this was the mainstream ideology in the sword god domain. Now, Yunshi was greatly anticipating the final reward of this quest. What would the treasure, the sword art seed, look like? There is also a monster here. Looking at the map, Yunshi slowly stood up. Holding the sword, he headed forward towards the dark forest. The landscape on top of the hill was much more devastated compared to Yunshi's imagination. The earth was scorched, the rocks turned ash-gray, and even the mountain's wall was as if it had been burnt down. The entire scenery gave off a strong deathly aura. But, on a straight line of vision at the far end of the dark forest, there was an ominous living being exerting a dangerous and menacing aura. In front of the entrance to the dark forest, the red, as if waiting for Yunshi to come, was motionless and didn't move. 1. 2. 1. 2. After a short while in this place, Yunshi had a better understanding of what his childhood sweetheart, Hua, had taught him about the breathing practice method. Hua had passed on to him a particular breathing method. Not only did he use that method in a death match against that green hippo, but it also had helped him restore his strength over time in that fight. The heartbeats, the breathing rhythm, and the sounds of the blood flowing in his body intertwined, forming a marvelous music. Hua seemed to be able to maintain this breathing state all the time, but Yunshi was only able to maintain it for a quarter of an hour. Longer than that made his breath's rhythm fall into disorder. This was the difference between a genius and an ordinary person. Even if he had experienced life and death situations 120 times, some things, as to speed up his practice's result, could not be rushed up forever. 15 minutes to be able to fight with all of his strength was Yunshi's limit at present. He could only maintain this state for this time period, and if he passed this time limit, then his battle efficiency would suffer and would decline greatly. In essence, his battle efficiency actually didn't even improve, it was just that he could temporarily bring out all of his body's potential to fight. If his battle prowess were to be calculated with numbers, then when the green hippo killed him for the first time, he could be graded between 6 and 7. However, after he killed the green hippo, his battle prowess was perhaps about 20. He could defeat the green hippo thanks to his observation over that beast's attack styles. I don't know, what type of beast is there? Judging from the red spot size on the map, Yunshi could only estimate that this beast's size was probably a little smaller than his body. The green hippo had a strong skin and its flesh was thick. It was definitely a strong and aggressive beast. Its speed perhaps wasn't slow, but its attack had a fatal flaw. This was also dependent on the body shape. Then, if this beast's body and his build were similar, could this beast be an agility type? Perhaps this beast would not be so simple. When he first received this new quest, a powerful feeling crossed his intuition. Yunshi could somewhat vaguely sense an ominous foreboding. His premonition quickly came into reality. At the dark forest's entrance, his second opponent stood majestically aloof there, waiting for his challenge. How could it be you? Yunshi's complexion was pretty much desperate as he looked at the opponent he was about to face. He couldn't beat it, this opponent, he really couldn't beat it. Because he was much too familiar with this opponent. An energetic and lively double ponytail, a white lotus and long sword marks engraved on the sword's hilt, long arched eyebrows with big wide dark eyes like the moon. This was Yunshi's first love, the most famous swordswoman genius ever in this small town. It was his childhood sweetheart, Hua. Cough, strange, why am I here? Hua seemed still a little puzzled and sleepy with eyes half closed. Wait, let me see. Stop the invader from entering the dark forest. Protect the beautiful princess from being desecrated. Once the princess is kissed, Yunshi would win. What? The princess. Be desecrated. Be kissed. By Yunshi, you. Yunshi. I won't let you pass through here. It was all over. Yunshi looked at Hua, who suddenly woke up and launched her radar of jealousy. In this situation, what should he do? Chapter 10. Hua soared. A gentle breeze blew on Yunqi's hair that laid on his forehead. After fighting with the green hippo over 120 times, the breeze that came from nowhere was supposed to be able to relieve his fatigue. Unfortunately, the enemy Yunqi faced now was absolutely not at the same level with the stupid green hippo. Sweat had been oozing from Yunqi's forehead as he simply stared at her. No one would know Hua's power better than Yunqi himself. When they were still in school, Hua was already the undoubtedly number one in the sword skill class. Even their teacher wasn't able to beat her. Her power is already far beyond her rank, the white 3 leaves badge. In the god domain world, people from first rank to third rank were known as the mortal rank. The third rank was already the limit that an ordinary person could reach. Hua had undoubtedly reached the summit of the mortal rank. She was already a super ace, being only a step away from the fourth rank, the hero rank. She was known as the first genius sword maiden in the history of the town. It was not blown from the wind, but instead, she won it by effort. She was only 16 years old and already reached the limit of the mortals. She had a bright future. As for the hippo, he defeated just now. It seemed pretty ferocious with its iron-like skin, but compared with Hua, its strength was just a joke. Yunqi often stayed together with Hua, watching her practice and learned the basic breathing method from her. Thus, he was able to kill the hippo by using his sword and accurate anticipation skills. However, if his opponent was Hua, Yunqi doesn't think that there is a chance that he could win against her. Maybe Hua's physical strength wasn't higher than the rough green hippo, however, if you were talking about her combat power. She was able to kill 10 of such hippos at once. Yunqi estimated that if the combat power of the green hippo was at 20, then Hua's power was undoubtedly over 100. As for the limit of her power, Yunqi had no idea. Tell me, little she. Where is this place? And why do you want to go into the forest behind me? Hua drew out her long sword from her back. She shook the point of the sword and gave Yunqi a seemingly friendly smile. Tell me everything. Tell me the truth and you will receive a lighter sentence. If you refuse, I will punish you severely. If he told her the truth, then that would be the worst. Yunqi's head sweated profusely as he looked at Hua's eyes, which was not fun at all. It was too terrible when Hua fell into jealousy. Why was there such a terrible boss in the newbie trial? Compared with Hua, the seemingly horrible hippo was so cute. At least, after the hippo killed him over 100 times, he was not discouraged. Eventually, he found the method to defeat it. But it's not the case for Hua. It was impossible. Even if he inspired every potential he had to beyond his limits by 120%, it was still hopeless for him to defeat his childhood sweetheart. The girl who was such a genius sword maiden. Little she, I detect a suspicious fragrance in the air. Hua snuffled. Her instinct as his childhood sweetheart told her something was wrong. There was an unknown girl's odor on Yunqi's body. It was like a slightly milky aroma. Maybe others couldn't detect the difference due to the scent of blood on Yunqi's body. However, as his childhood sweetheart, she wouldn't make any mistakes. It wasn't the odor of the girl from the flower shop down the street, Miley. Her odor was always mixed with the faint aroma of flowers. It wasn't the odor of the girl from the neighboring town's gem store, Phyllis. Her odor contained a faint aroma of dark green stone. It was slightly like the odor of the girl from the cake shop across the street, Yili. However, Yili's odor was like a sweet cream, but this odor contained something else. Who was she? Hua slowly moved the point of her sword, trying to find out the bitch who dared to touch her most precious treasure, Yunqi. Unfortunately, even if her sword skill was unrivaled, it was impossible to do such a thing. After all, the cream-like odor on Yunshi's body came from a star elf named Mayer. What should he do? Yunshi was under a great deal of stress, simply due to being pointed at by Hua's sword. After all, every skill he mastered, like the breathing method, was learned from Hua. Could he practice his sword skill in combat, then defeat his teacher, Hua? Come on, if he had such a great talent, he would have passed the test of a first-rank swordsman already. Hua. She was the best one among all the third-rank warriors, an unchallenged super sword master. I'm sorry, Hua. I have to go there. He couldn't explain and tell her the ultimate goal for why he had to break into the dark forest. If he said it out loud, he would have a tragic ending. It was his experience, which he concluded according to his childhood sweetheart's character. The jealous Hua. If she knew his goal was to wake up the unknown sleeping beauty with a kiss. No, he couldn't dare think of it. Unfortunately, she knew. You want to wake the sleeping beauty by kissing her. Little she, you have become a bad boy now. Hua raised her eyebrows. The long sword made a sharp sound vibration in her hand. I won't let you pass through here. If you want to go, try to defeat me first. In the name of the gatekeeper of the dark forest, I announce that this road is blocked. Rushing. Yunshi rushed. The initial fight was the only chance he had to win. He had gone through 120 deaths in combat and reached the limit of his potential. Hua didn't know this, so this was his only chance. Gee, little she, you've made progress. Hua held her sword horizontally. She displaced Yunshi's attack, then stepped out with her left foot. 3 continuous attacks. Yunshi was ready to risk it. After all, this world was just a trial world. He had the special right to be revived an infinite amount of times. Afterward, he saw 9 sword lights. Up, down, left, right, above the right, below the left, below the right. The final was a wind-like straight thrust. Yunshi's 3 continuous attacks were 3 straight attacks, a series of speedy slashes. However, Hua brandished her sword 9 times in a short second. She attacked Yunshi from 9 different directions and angles. They were 9 attacks, but it was also a one-time attack. Before Yunshi found out the sequence and principle of her attack, his iron sword had flown out of his hands, then the sword wind blew him away. This was their difference. There was such a large gap that he couldn't even fill it with the combat experience he learned from his deaths. Hua's sword was like a strong wind, like lightning, like the transitory sparklers in the sky. In the face of such a sword, Yunshi's body was stiff and wasn't even able to speak. Even if he was in his optimum state and was armed to his teeth, he still couldn't defeat Hua. What a speedy sword! Yunshi shut his eyes, waiting for his death. It didn't matter. He found the way to win against the green hippo after dying 120 times. In that case, even if his second opponent was Hua, he could also find the road to victory. He just didn't know how many times he had to die before that happened. At least, the number of deaths would grow by 10 times. Yunshi was prepared. However, after Yunshi gave up resisting, he didn't see the darkness he waited for, not to mention the warm campfire. Little she, open your eyes. A warm small palm knocked Yunshi's head. In his ear, he heard a familiar voice. Why? I'm not dead. Yunshi opened his eyes and saw his childhood sweetheart's lively face. Why would you die? Did you think I would kill you? Hua looked at Yunshi with a little anger. Even if she was a little jealous and planned to find the new girl who tried to get close to Yunshi no matter what the price is, it wasn't enough to make Yunshi so scared, right? Aren't you the gatekeeper of the dark forest? Yunshi hadn't thought of it clearly. After all, the ferocity of the first monster, the green hippo, had already been imprinted in his heart. That's my question. What's all this about? Hua Hua frowned. It was a little strange, but a moment ago, she thought she heard a "kill him" sound in her ears. It was seemingly like the true thought in her heart. However, who was she? She was Yunshi's childhood sweetheart. She was destined to be married to him in the future. She would defeat anybody who dared to block her love with Yunshi. This was exactly the reason that why she could send out such a sword attack. Humph. The kendo teacher who almost robbed her of her successful plan when Yunshi was 12 years old. You didn't expect this, right? You wanted to rob the cradle. I wouldn't let you do this. Chapter 11. The older sister. That summer a single sword stroke from Hua Hua would be enough to beat Yunshi. Hua Hua smelled the odor on Yunshi's body as she pushed him to the ground. She pinned him down by using her body, in order to not let him run away. More accurately, it was the posture of a woman going down on the man, the so-called straddle posture. This odor, weird. Tell me, little she. Who's the girl this time? As his childhood sweetheart, she had a better sense of smell than the golden retriever fairy, Mayer. She was sure that Yunshi definitely had an affair with some other girl. No, perhaps it was the other girl who did it proactively. Is it the same as the thing that happened that summer? Little she, are you? Hua Hua stared at Yunshi in disbelief. She slightly lowered down her head, as if she was going to give Yunshi a general checkup. That summer, Yunshi's face turned red. He remembered his teacher who taught him sword skills, who was not only great at her sword skill, but also great in her chest. Because it happened when he was 12 years old, and that teacher left after only teaching them for a month, he couldn't even recall her name exactly. However, they would never forget the thing that happened that summer. No matter himself or his childhood sweetheart, Hua Hua. Because she was the first big sister who let him understand the fantastic thing about females. He still remembered it was a sultry summer afternoon. That big sister called him to meet her in her own sword room, alone. And the thing that happened next. Yunshi was left with a very deep impression. At that time, that always very gentle big sister, her pinky delicate face was full of satisfaction, with a face wearing a comfortable smile. Her eyes overflowed with water-like tender feelings. That was a passion Yunshi didn't understand. Little she. Do you want me to teach you something that's not written in the books? Teacher, is it a kind of sword skill? But I'm not good at sword skills. When Yunshi was 12 years old, he still felt himself a little inferior because his talent in sword wasn't good. At that time, he was far less self-confident than now. Which 12-year-old boy didn't hope of himself becoming a strong swordsman, defeating every opponent, and in the end, becoming a hero? Of course, 12-year-old Yunshi also thought so. At that time, he still had a slender hope about his sword skill talent. So, when the new sword skill teacher called him to meet her alone, he was pretty upset. He thought, was it because his performance was too poor, so the teacher was going to punish him? However, it didn't look like what he expected. Sword skill is important. However, sword skill isn't everything. The elder big sister smiled. Her pink lips slightly opened as she said the words softly. Such a charming scene was sent out with strong implication towards Yunshi. Unfortunately, it was meaningless for a 12-year-old boy. What's the lesson? Yunshi was so puzzled. He looked at the big sister, she was looking at him with a blushed face, as he asked a quite silly and naive question. It's very important, about life and future, lesson. Little she, you are a good boy. So, let me teach you the lesson about becoming an adult. It seemed like she was drunk. The big sister reached out her slim hand to Yunxi and smiled shyly. Sweat stains appeared under her hair shaft. Her creamy white skin turned pink. Her aromatic breath made Yunxi's heart beat faster. Don't worry. I won't hurt you. Or rather to say, I'm the person who will feel the pain. The big sister slowly covered Yunxi's hands with her hands. Her intimate voice softly resounded in his heart, full of gentleness and charm. The next was the most special lesson Yunxi had since his birth. Kissing, hugging, and touching. Afterward, he saw her body, every part he could see and shouldn't see, her slender but opposite body type. Her snowy and creamy, double peaks, her smooth and flavory shoulders, and her lower down blushed neck. She was so gentle and beautiful, like nature itself. The light red under her snow-white skin, her gradually lowered voice, and her gentle shy but also affectionate eyes. Even though it was already a long, long time later, she still didn't disappear from Yunxi's heart. Little she. Don't forget today. After capturing Yunxi's heart by using her tender, delicious small tongue, luring him to fall bit by bit, the big sister's eyes turned more sweet and charming. At that moment, her body was a gorgeous view and a temptation in Yunxi's eyes. Especially that tongue of hers when she was licking Yunxi's cheek. It was so soft, making one's body go limp. Her smooth silky hair was near his face, its aroma was addicting. Isn't this a crime? The smothered 12-year-old Yunxi was a bit distressed by the older sister. No matter what, if you miss this chance, you will regret it. As long as there's love, our age difference is not a problem. Who would go back to marry that idiot? Little she, when you grow up, you must remember to come find me. She kissed the 12-year-old Yunxi as she made her decision. However, when she was going to commit the crime, a sword cut the door of the sword room into pieces, from the center down. Let go of my Yunxi. You cheating cat. Perpetrator. Eek. When did you come here, little Huahua? Yunxi's body is full of your odor. I had found it earlier today. Don't put your hands on my Yunxi. Take it, my wind like 10 hits. Go to hell, you thieving cat. Yunxi had no impression about what happened next because he was blown away by the turbulent sword wind and was dazed. It seemed that the both of them intentionally didn't let him see the thing that happened next. After that, when Yunxi woke up, he heard that the new sword skills teacher had resigned. He was told that her house's small courtyard had sunk in an earthquake. After that, every time unknown girls wanted to get close to him, Huahua would certainly come, and her words always made Yunxi recall the thing that happened that summer. Damn! Is there really something that happened? Looking at Yunxi's absent-minded emotions, Huahua's intuition was raised to the highest level, red alarm. Something was wrong. There must be something wrong. Ordinary females wouldn't cause Yunxi to be in such a dreamy state. Who dares to leave their odor on little she's body when she was away? And it was not only the milky aroma. There must have been some further contact. Could it be like that damned coquette who almost did it? This new cheating cat had close contact with Yunxi? When did it happen? She was sure that Yunxi's body didn't have this odor during the daytime. Yunxi, who is it? Come out with it, what's her name? Tell me. This wasn't an interrogative sentence, but an affirmative sentence. As Yunxi's childhood sweetheart, Huahua had a feral super instinct about Yunxi's fate with women. Perhaps, this time, this new opponent was the most terrible opponent after that cheating cat left the town because of her family matters. Even she hasn't yet left such an odor on Yunxi's body. Huahua, make it quick. Yunxi showed. Anyway, the worst thing has happened. I don't care what will happen next. Expression and resolutely turned his head around. He wouldn't say it. Even if she forced open his mouth, he would also say nothing. He was the star child and had 4 overlord ex-girlfriends. How could he possibly tell her this? Why was Hua Hua was in this trial? Undoubtedly, his jealous childhood sweetheart, Hua Hua, was the last one he had hoped to know of this. She was his first love, the most fantastic longing in his heart. If it was possible, he didn't want her to take part in his impending big trouble. A week. Just after a week, Hua Hua would leave the small town. She would join the place he would never reach, the Sword Palace. So, let him leave Hua Hua a perfect impression, as her childhood sweetheart. Yun Shi. Hua Hua seriously spoke out his name, which also meant that she was really getting frantic. Wee, her little Shi. Why has he become a bad boy all of a sudden? No, she must understand what this absurd dream was and why she became the gatekeeper of the dark forest. Yes, the Sleeping Beauty. Hua Hua suddenly recalled the special keyword of her task as the gatekeeper. Chapter 12, Hua Hua's weak point. Tell me, little Shi. Is she that Sleeping Beauty? What's so special about her that you would want to go in the dark forest, even if it means you have to defeat me? And it needs you to awaken her by kissing. Hua Hua's face suddenly turned red. Oh, right. Looks like Hua Hua was so shy that she didn't dare to look at him. Yun Shi had a vague idea. It seemed that Hua Hua had a weak point. Tell the truth and you will receive a lighter sentence. Keep lying and you will have a heavy punishment. Hua Hua waved her small fists and knocked on Yun Shi's chest. Her expression showed, I won't let you go if you don't tell me the truth. Yun Shi had no idea how to deal with this. He knew the power gap between Hua Hua and himself. It was not something that could be filled by hundreds of deaths. It was a desperate natural chasm. If he had to use that method. This trial, how ruthless and twisted in human nature it was. I'm gonna see the Sleeping Beauty. She dares to seduce my little Shi. She must be a cheating cat. Fire burned in Hua Hua's eyes, which made Yun Shi have a really bad feeling. Thinking back to the past earthquake-like pitiful scene in the sword skills teacher's courtyard. Though he had never seen the Sleeping Beauty who was in the dark forest, however, since she was the Sleeping Beauty, of course, she was a feminine girl who had no power to fight against the last boss of the trial, Hua Hua. If Hua Hua found her, the trial would be equal to having failed. Yun Shi was pretty sure about this. So, it was time to use that method. Sorry, Hua Hua. As your childhood sweetheart, I know very much about your weak point. Hua Hua, look at me. Yun Shi reached out his hand to grasp Hua Hua's hand. He pulled his nerves together and sat up to get near Hua Hua, just like what he once did in the past. Ah, wow, whoa. Looking at Yun Shi's face that was getting closer and closer, Hua Hua suddenly fell into a panic. This time, she had lost all prestige as an unchallenged sword maiden. She was just a confused girl who was lost in love. Little Shi, what are you gonna do? She was the girl who pulled down Yun Shi and straddled on his body. However, when Yun Shi really got close to her, she was confused and panicked. This was Hua Hua's biggest weak point. She had no power to resist Yun Shi's intimate behavior. It was already an above-standard performance to ride on Yun Shi's body with anger. As for the further intimate behavior, it was still a forbidden zone in this young girl's heart. Conversely, due to that summer, the hand-by-hand teaching from that gentle big sister and the forbidden game he played together with Yili, Alphyllis, and Milei in their childhood, Yun Shi was more skilled. This was Hua Hua's biggest weak point. She was a well-behaved girl, always jealous but knew nothing about the things not written in the textbooks. She sucked at intimate behavior. She was a well-behaved, would be a virtuous wife and caring mother, sword girl. So, when Yunxi took the initial to attack her, she immediately froze as her whole body started to tremble. She was too overexcited and terrified, she didn't know what to do. Finally, Yunxi kissed her lips, and her eyes became thoroughly misted. Woo! And, according to the kissing skill he learned from his sword skills teacher, Yili, Elphilis, Milei, and Mayer, Yunxi invaded and occupied his childhood sweetheart's lips and mouth bit by bit. He didn't allow her to breathe. Little Shi, wait, because her lips and tongue were blocked by Yunxi, Hua sent out a vague voice, then her whole body softly laid down in Yunxi's arms. In terms of sword skills, 100 Yunxis couldn't compare with one Hua. However, in terms of kissing, 100 Huas couldn't compare with one Yunxi. After all, Hua was a simple sword idiot, she always practiced over 12 hours a day. The skill of courting was too difficult for her. I'm sorry, Hua. After kissing Hua till she couldn't breathe and finally making her lose consciousness, Yunxi carefully changed their body position, letting the dizzy Hua lie down beside himself. As he expected, the trial wouldn't let him face an unbeatable enemy. At least for Yunxi, Hua wasn't an unbeatable enemy. However, this strategy he used to win made people speechless. Except for Yunxi, no one else could make Hua defenseless and come into this attackable distance. Little Shi, no, Hua's mind dropped into a mess, and her body also fell into a strange dissonance. She saw Yunxi stand up and was going to escape, but she failed every time she tried to stand up to catch him. In some sense, Yunxi's attack was a complete success. Run! Yunxi didn't know how long Hua would remain in this state of disturbance of consciousness. He still remembered that year he was 12. After he learned the lesson which the textbook wouldn't tell him from his sword skills teacher, the big sister. The first target he found in order to practice it was Hua. As the result, Hua was dazzled for over a quarter of an hour. After that, she would never allow him to play this game with her again. Well, after that, the 12-year-old him played this game with several other childhood friends. They were Milei from the flower shop, Elphilis from the gem shop, and Yili, who joined in the fun later on. It was true. Yunxi never thought there was anything wrong until last year. For children, playing something never played was interesting. And making their heart beat faster was a natural thing, wasn't it? Till the girls who played this game, such as Milei and Elphilis, all shyly told him that they could play this kind of games so much more often. That it would be better if he added the prefix ceremony like wedding for the game, then he finally realized something was wrong. As for the youngest girl, Yili, she didn't make such a request. It seemed that simply hugging and kissing was already gratifying for her. Comparing them to the new girl, Mayer, she was the most zealous one. Her odor was unlike the girls who played the game with him, she had a fantastic but slightly milky aroma. Hua should have smelled it, so she found out something was wrong. How sensitive her nose was. Little Shi, I need to stand up. At the entrance of the forest, Hua's voice was raised. Apparently, she had woken up from her trance. That was bad. Be quick. He should move faster. Sleeping Beauty, where are you? Yunxi anxiously searched the map in his mind and found he had almost overlapped with the green point on the map. At the same time, the bright red dip, which was at the entrance of the dark forest, started moving at a terrible speed. The death line of the trial was coming. Here. Wrapped by countless branches, Yunxi saw a place where it was surrounded by black brambles. A girl wearing white pajamas was laying still, sound asleep, surrounded by a bed of thorns. Chapter 13, Sleeping Beauty's kiss. Her naked feet was little and dainty, and only a little bit bigger than Yunxi's palm. There was almost zero distance between her lovely small feet and the brambles. It seemed that any slight movement would cause a dropping bloody end. Her white insteps and delicate lower legs constituted a beautiful arc. Her snow-white toes slightly curled up like cat's claws. She looked pretty shy and lovely. A perfect artwork in the world. The Sleeping Beauty had black and smooth long hair. Her black and smooth long hair was spread on the tree-made bed, having an elegant, peaceful, and slightly bright feeling. Her face looked long but pretty and delicate, charming and soft, but also with some naivety. If she smiled, she must look innocent, feminine, and tender. However, it looked like she was experiencing a nightmare. Her eyebrows were slightly frowned. It seemed like she wanted to open her eyes, but couldn't do this seemingly simple action. Her crescent long eyebrows, 2 lines of serried eyelashes, her pretty and proud nose and her red and nifty lips. In addition to her smooth, delicate and paper-like skin, these made her look like a princess. Even if she was only wearing nightclothes, it couldn't block her natural and exalted appearance. She was the Sleeping Beauty in the dark forest. This was the only information Yunshi knew. He didn't know where she was from, and why she was sleeping in the dark forest, surrounded by countless sharp brambles. Sorry. Yunshi felt guilty and tried to tear away the black brambles from her surrounding. Hiss. At the next moment, Yunshi was so pained that he felt his hands had almost been numbed. These brambles were far sharper than they looked, even giving him an illusion that it would bite at his flesh. Yunshi's hands were already drenched with blood after he tore away one of the brambles. For fear that the Sleeping Beauty would get wounded due to these black brambles, he carefully tore away these terrible black brambles from the outmost part. Bit by bit, using his hands. In the tree-made bed, the sleeping girl's snow-white skin reflected jade-like lights under the glimmering lights, which made her holy and inviolable. Indistinctly, tendons and muscles appeared on her beautiful insteps. Viewing them from Yunshi's sight, her slippery pink soles were unexpectedly soft. Look at her tidy toes and smooth skin. 5 white jade-like toes connected together tightly. The rounded tip of her toes were like 5 crouched little white rabbits. They were flurried but also happy, with a wonderful but coy look. Her rubicund soles were as soft as silk, and her arches were as white as crystal. Her jade-white heels were ruddy in color and so appealing, making him unwilling to release them. Hiss. Yunshi tore away another black bramble from the sleeping girl's side, resulting in a deep wound appearing on his hand. Something was wrong with these brambles. Yunshi looked at his bloody hands. In order to run away from Huahua's side, he even abandoned his own weapon, the iron sword, simply in order to save a little body strength. There wasn't enough time. A series of weird asterisk click. Click. Asterisk sounds rang in his ear. In such a quiescent dark forest, no one else would make such a noise. Just do it. Yunshi reached out his hands and desperately tore the tough black brambles at full force. And at the same time, the corner of his eyes were also looking at the path. Yunshi hoped that he didn't see the girl who was speedily rushing here. He was spooked. Huahua, his childhood sweetheart and a genius sword maiden. He thought he had thought of her to the greatest extent. However, the ability Huahua showed now was worse than his wildest imagination. She wasn't running. She was flying. No. Technically, she was stepping in the air. By drawing support from the countless big trees in the dark forest, her feet continuously stepped on the tree trunks. Every step would cause a fast turn. The trees in the dark forest became her footholds for flying in the air. Her every step was so fast that Yunshi had an illusion that he was a slowly crawling snail, while Huahua was an elegant and smart hummingbird. Apparently, her body was still in the range of humans, and Yunshi could even see that her body was uncoordinated, just like himself. However, with her continuous turns in the air, Huahua displayed 300% of her body's potential. This kind of stepping in the air was already beyond Yunxi's imagination. It needed an extreme genius to calculate, react, and prejudge. If it was him, he probably couldn't learn a little, even if he practiced to death for thousands of times. Compared to Hua's ability to step in the air, the stupid green hippo's combat skill was as clumsy as an original crawler. They were both at the 3rd rank, but Hua was like a legendary hero unit. As for the green hippo, he could only be considered as a big monster among all the normal monsters. Why was there such a giant gap among different people? No, time was running out. Yunxi shook his head. He didn't care that pale bones had been exposed from out of his hands. At the price of almost losing the feeling of his hands, he tore away the last bramble from the sleeping beauty. It seemed that she could feel that somebody was getting close to her. The sleeping beauty girl had a slightly depressed look, and her white soft small feet slightly shivered. I'm sorry. This is a dream, a dream. Yunxi hypnotized to himself. Facing the sleeping beauty with his bloody hands, he kissed the girl with courage. Ah! The sleeping beauty woke up. Yunxi saw her eyes. What a pair of beautiful eyes. Inside her black pupils, it was free and easy, like she had seen all the beauties of the world. To be able to remain indifferent to whatever happened. But also, her eyes were so clear, like a pool of unsullied water, and could make anyone's heart calm down after seeing her pupils. However, at the next moment, her eyes changed. As if it was a flame and lightning, like a flashlight, but also as if it was a bright light exploding inside the furious sea of lava. It almost ignited Yunxi's whole body. Little she. You have become a playboy. Hua was stepping on the air and turning towards him. With the dancing of the lightning of her sword, she displayed an awesome sword skill, which Yunxi had never seen before. Like a flying swallow hovering in the sky, and also like a dragon dancing in the air. At that instant, Yunxi had a jumpy feeling. How dare you! The sleeping beauty barely reached out one of her small hands and signed a sword sign in the air. Signing in the air. It wasn't a power mortals could have. At least, it was a superpower which belonged to 4th-ranked heroes, or higher. However, all of this had no relation with Yunxi himself. The bright lights of the stars fell down and covered Yunxi's body after turning into a light beam. Yunxi's body turned into countless silver-blue particles and returned to the real world. Congratulations, Master. You finished the rookie trial. Mayer's voice sounded pretty cute right now. Chapter 14, 3 Seeds. The light of the stars fell down. Star rivers and star clouds slowly rotated around Yunxi, giving him a gentle and warm feeling. Back. I'm back. Yunxi had the impulse to cry after seeing the warm starlights. It was too difficult. Why was the rookie trial so difficult? The first monster had the strength of a 3rd rank. It could kill him with a simple slap. In order to beat the damn hippo down, he died over 120 times, and then finally was able to kill it. After that, the second boss, the gatekeeper, was the first master he knew. She was the best sword genius in the town, the natural enemy whom he had no chance to win against. If the sword genius wasn't his childhood sweetheart, and she didn't have a weak point when she faced him, even if he died 1,000 times, he wouldn't be able to win against her. Even at the last minute, the seemingly quiet sleeping beauty was also quite a dangerous girl. To be honest, even the hippo was also able to kill 10 Yunxis at the same time. Congratulations, Master. You successfully passed through the rookie trial. The stars have a good evaluation of you. Maya was awaiting him at the location of the stars. She happily ran towards Yunxi and directly gave him a kiss. Wait, Yunxi was pulled down on the ground by Mayer, tasting her spellbinding kiss. Mayer's kiss was enthusiastic and filled with a sweet aroma. Compared to the kiss of the big sister and his other childhood friends, her kiss was far deeper and sexy. Where have you learned this? He didn't find any skill in Mayer's kiss, but her kiss was so intoxicating. You were great, master. After kissing and licking Yunshi's face, finally, Mayer remembered her duty. Look, we had a great harvest. A light screen appeared in front of Mayer. It recorded Yunshi's performance during the rookie trial. On the screen, most of the video parts were of Yunshi and the green hippo fighting. His clash with his childhood sweetheart and the last kiss with the sleeping beauty didn't take up too much space, but they were continuously replayed. At the last image of the light screen, it was the evaluation of his rookie trial and the reward. Congratulations, Starchild. You finished the first step in your great trial. The first kiss was very important. The first kiss was one small step for you and one giant leap for the world. We will always accompany you. This time, please learn to use a better method to love, and don't commit the same error. The star-loving system will be open to you. Then, next was Yunshi's reward in the trial. Hippo's soul, 1 star, increase, toughness, vigor, and physical strength by a bit. Achievement, plunderer of first kiss. Young girls' lips are your game. Capture them, but don't play with fire. A seed of the sword, property is selectable. You choose what kind of power you want. Yunshi had personally felt the effect of the hippo's soul. Due to the enhancement of the soul, his stiff body was improved and he finally escaped from Huahua's hands. However, what about the plunderer of first kiss? What kind of system was this? Mayor, tell me what's this system? Yunshi said in a sullen tone and pointed to the puzzling tag. This system is a tailor-made system made after the stars reference your past mistakes and their memory. The reason Master died last time is because you didn't understand such matters and finally capsized. This time, the Sea of Stars specially prepared a system in order to practice your ability to love, for fear that you would fall in the same mistake again. The loving system of the stars referred to as Star Loving System. It's an auxiliary system you ask the stars to make for this life's you. Mayor innocently looked at the stunned Yunshi. Was my love really that bad in my last life? Yunshi felt his worldview being overturned. Being taught how to love by the stars? What was that? What trash was he in his last life to such an extent, had to ask the stars to do such a thing for him? Okay, let's set that aside. What's this trial about? Yunshi was barely able to accept the star-loving system. But what was this extremely weird trial about? That green hippo, his childhood sweetheart, Huahua, and that obviously ridiculous powerful sleeping beauty. Where did they come from? Master, your trial is specially made by the stars. In order to help you become strong, the stars were linked to a special dream world, and prepared the unique trial world for you. Everything that appears in the trial is from the memory of the stars. There are some real events that happened, and some, the memories of the world. As for your opponents, they were specially drawn into the dream by the stars from nearest areas. Master, what kind of opponents did you face? From nearest areas. I see, Yunshi finally understood why Huahua was in his trial. Speaking of the nearest warrior, who else could it be other than Huahua? Since the stars took the near warriors as their priority objectives, of course, Huahua would be selected. However, was there really such a monster like the green hippo near the town? It was a pretty peaceful common town. Recently, he didn't even see a fox. Even the stars can't create something out of nothing. The enemy you saw should be a shadow in the dream world. Your trial was perfect. Now, choose your last reward. Mayer clicked on the seed pattern of the last reward with great interest. There were 3 branches, representing 3 different properties of the reward. Can I choose any property for the seed of the sword? Yunshi curiously looked at the reward which he got through hundreds of deaths. It was a fantastic seed, with 3 colors rotating in it. Yes. Master, you can freely choose your last reward according to the trial you finished. The first seed of the sword was from the murderous hippo. The first seed appeared in front of Yunshi. It was that green hippo seed. Properties: super strength, body bulk up, and stop by force. Master, if you're going to practice weapons like the giant sword, this seed is your best choice. The second seed was from Hua. Properties: zoom, super sword skill, discerning highest sword skills, and god sword skill, flying sky sword, beginner level. As per Yunshi's expectation, the green hippo's sword seed was nothing compared to Hua's seed. Anyone would know what was the right choice after seeing the description of Hua's sword seed. However, there was still a third seed of the sword. The last one is from the Sleeping Beauty. Properties: vacuum seal, cutting blade, void burst, and great circulation. Terrible. It was too terrible. Yunshi felt his back go cold with sweat when he saw the several abilities in the sword seed. If the stars didn't summon him back at the first moment he finished his trial, there would have been a bloody end waiting for him. The Sleeping Beauty. He didn't even know her name. But she was the strongest person he had ever seen, a true hero-ranked girl. No, it couldn't be that easy to get the power of a hero rank. What's wrong with this seed? Yunshi quickly calmed down after seeing the different properties of the 3 seeds. It was too abnormal. The properties of the 3 different seeds were at 3 different levels. The power of the green hippo's seed wasn't out of the range of a 3rd-rank monster. Except for its brute force, it had nothing good. Hua's seed had infinite potential. Even by only considering the value of the god sword skill, flying sky sword, beginner level, it was 10 times better than the green hippo's seed. As for the Sleeping Beauty, her vacuum seal, cutting blade, and great circulation were the abilities which only super-ranked beings were able to master. Chapter 15, Hua's Seed, no problem. The stars absorb the free energies in the trial and condense them into the 3 seeds. They are perfect. Mayer said proudly. The stars wouldn't give him defective seeds. There were 3 seeds in front of Yunshi. Each of them were perfect and could absolutely let Yunshi absorb their energies without fail. Then, why are their qualities so different? Yunshi looked at the 3 seeds, which had great differences in properties, and thought that it wouldn't be that simple. It's because high-quality seeds need a much longer time to condense. Besides, the absorption rate depends on your affinity. Mayer pointed to the 3 seeds and showed their absorption rate. The first seed of the green hippo was easy to absorb and had a normal affinity. Its absorption rate would be a month. The second seed, Hua's seed, was easy to absorb, but needed a high affinity. Its absorption rate would be 1 year. The third seed, the Sleeping Beauty seed, was difficult to absorb and had quite a low affinity. Its absorption rate would be 100 years. Alright. Yunshi knew there was no such thing as a free lunch. The green hippo's seed was the easiest one to absorb. It could let him master skills like body bulk up and super strength in 1 month. However, compared to the last 2 seeds, this seed was meaningless. Unless he opened his eyes and instantly faced death, he would be blind if he chose it. As for the other 2 seeds, each had its own merits. Hua's seed had high potential and had the highest compatibility with him amongst the 3 seeds. Considering that this seed was condensed by the stars, based on Hua's characteristics, it wasn't surprising to have such a special compatibility. The Sleeping Beauty seed had the most terrible power, with the worst compatibility and the lowest affinity. It needed 100 years to absorb, according to the common method. Which also meant that it would be 100 times more difficult than absorbing Huahua's seed. No wonder it was a seed from a warrior whose rank was above the 4th rank. Seems. I don't have any other choice. Yunshi reluctantly moved his eyes away from the Sleeping Beauty seed, which had superpowers such as vacuum seal, cutting blade, and great circulation, and finally chose his childhood sweetheart sword seed. In fact, among the 3 seeds, each had its own merits. The green hippo seed was fit for people who needed power to go to the battlefield. After all, on the battlefield, between life and death, the green hippo's iron skin and enhanced strength could bring an immediate effect. However, the battlefield was still a far-away word for Yunshi, so he naturally gave up the seed which could enhance his power instantly. Huahua's seed had unlimited potential. No matter if it was Quicksilver Motion, discerning highest-level sword skills, or the marvelous God Sword skill, Flying Sky Sword, beginner level, they all showed his childhood sweetheart's uniqueness. Especially the last, God Sword skill, Flying Sky Sword, beginner level. Yunshi didn't even know his childhood sweetheart had such a miraculous sword skill. Undoubtedly, the Sleeping Beauty seed was the strongest and most terrible seed. Unfortunately, it was too difficult for Yunshi, no matter its compatibility or affinity. Thinking it over, it was normal. After all, it was a seed from a warrior who was above the 4th rank. In this case, Huahua's seed was the most suitable for Yunshi, as if it were tailor-made for him. Besides, unlike the green hippo and the Sleeping Beauty, Yunshi knew Huahua very well. As he was close to the warrior herself, he had the opportunity to ask her for advice and improve himself. Give me Huahua's seed. Since he decided it, he wouldn't regret it. Even if he could have the power of a hero rank after absorbing the Sleeping Beauty seed, Yunshi still believed that Huahua's seed wouldn't be inferior to it. Okay. Loading now, linking. Mayer pointed at Huahua's seed, then the seed flew to Yunshi automatically. Starting link with the seed. Open the image link. Open the port, ready to absorb the mystical power of the seed. Code, Huahua. Yunshi had a fantastic feeling as he saw Huahua's seed flying into his body. It was as if there was an invisible, but real line between himself and Huahua. A series of understandings about various sword skills, which he would normally never understand, naturally appeared in his mind. As if all of Huahua's understandings about the sword were shared with him. Was this what Huahua's seed contained? He finally understood what the sword meant in the eyes of the genius sword girl, Huahua. The angle and time to brandish a sword, how to adjust the center of swords, and how to achieve Quicksilver Motion by quickly moving one's feet. It also included the Flying Sky Sword, which Yunshi could only touch the edge of, but couldn't reach. The more he came in contact with the power of Huahua's sword through the seed, the more powerful Yunshi felt from his childhood sweetheart was. Her talent on the sword skill was definitely not only at the 3rd rank. Now, he only understood 1/10 of her sword skills. However, now he had the confidence to use the iron sword to kill that aggressive green hippo in only 3 strikes. Huahua's seed was so powerful. Now, what's my swordsman rank? Yunshi felt good about himself after receiving Huahua's seed. Well, you should have reached the 3rd rank at your combat reflexes on the sword. But master, your body is still at the 1st rank. At the next trial, you will meet with more enemies. Later, don't forget to hunt and get more souls to enhance your body. Mayer gave him a fair appraisal after evaluating Yunshi's current status. Yeah. A 3rd-ranked sword intuition with a 1st-rank body. Yunshi murmured, and for the first time, felt something magical about the love system of the stars. Become strong by loving. It seemed that this was the road the special trial system wanted him to walk on. Looking at his seed and finding that it was only processed to 10%, Yunshi couldn't help but imagine the power he would have after the absorption is complete. It was worthy of being Huahua's seed. Its potential at 10% had given him a third-rank combat intuition. Master, we should go. The next trial will be in 1 week. Let me warm your bed. Mayor expectantly looked at Yunshi. This was her most anticipated happy moment. A fairy who could help him warm his bed. He never had such a fantastic creature. Sunlight came in through the window and illuminated the bed of the second floor of the bread shop. Yunshi naturally opened his eyes. Mayor? Yunshi asked, and an unexpected terror and shivering spread throughout his body. Not only that. He was completely exhausted. Splitting pain clawed through Yunshi's body. Ah! Yunshi's scream rang in the tiny room and he huddled his whole body on his bed like a big baby. If it wasn't for the breathing method that ran itself automatically and helped him balance his body, he would have fainted. The trial needed a price, but the stars helped Yunshi shield most of the negative effect from the trial. However, after he returned to the real world, they bursted out together in a flash. If he hadn't absorbed 10% of Huahua's seed, the pain would have overdrafted his limits and would have made him lay in bed for 10 days. Mirror, you should have warned me earlier. Yunshi laid on his bed and almost vomited. Woof! The star fairy was in the form of a little golden dog. She reached out her paw and helped Yunshi wipe his sweat. You can't turn into human form. Yunshi was a little confused after finding out that Mayor couldn't turn into a beautiful girl in the real world. Woof! The little golden dog, Mayor, nodded first, then stretched out her fluffy little claw and rode in the air. Temporarily, I can't. But Master, you can transfer your star power into my body after you become stronger. By that time, I can turn into my human form. Chapter 16, Huahua arrives at the door. So, that's how it is. Then I'll look forward to when you grow up. He was somewhat slightly disappointed. But Mayor in her golden retriever form was also very cute, so it was very easy for Yunshi to accept the present situation compared to it. His body had an even bigger problem. Crackle. Countless electrical currents rapidly flowed in Yunshi's body. The exhaustions, fatigues, and side effects, as the aftermath after he fought 121 rounds with the green hippo, followed with the death match and fleeing from Huahua, finally bursted out in one breath. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. From his fingertips to the tip of his toe, from the top of his head to the furthest part of his spinal bone, all of his muscles and nerves were howling, wailing, twisting, and convulsing. Master, take a deep breath quickly. Mayor's small paw reluctantly carved a fainter and hollow character. It was as if using this ability would consume her spiritual force greatly. Huff, ha, huff, ha. Following Mayor's guidance, Yunshi began to apply the sword art seed and using the breathing method he learned from Huahua. At first, merely keeping his breathing rhythm like this was extremely difficult. Had Yunshi only relied on his half-completed breathing rhythm, his eyes and ears learned from Huahua's breathing method, he would definitely have failed halfway. Fortunately, what Yunshi learned now was the true and genuine sword art seed that carried along with it other methods of which he didn't know how many levels higher compared to his half-completed breathing method was. It was maybe close to a secret and perfect mortal-grade breathing method. Huff, ha, ha, huff, ha, ha. The rhythm was that for each breath he inhaled, he must exhale twice. Due to every part of his body being in pain, along with each breath taken, his organs absorb his body fluids, which will then be dissolved in his chest and abdomen. Afterward, a strand of warm heat slowly flowed and spread out from his stomach and chest, healing the distorted nerve network and muscles in Yunshi's body. For each breath he took in, Yunshi could feel that the balance in his body became more splendid. Even his life force was strengthening. This was, without a doubt, the highest mortal grade breathing method and the most secretive amongst them, too. In the trial, he had tempered himself and experienced 120 deaths before he was finally able to fully adapt to the situation. Had it been Hua, she would have fully adapted within several breaths. The huge disparity in natural talent between people could sometimes really make a person despair. However, after receiving the star seed from Hua, he had, at the very least, about 1/10 of Hua's talent right now. Even if it was only 1/10, it cannot be underestimated, since the talent condensed in this star seed was Hua's sensibility toward the sword arts, her mastery over combat skill, as well as that unfathomable god sword skill, heavenly flying sword, beginner level. After he had swallowed the green hippo's soul, his physical strength was enhanced to the first-rank swordsman stage. And Hua's seed was absolutely a giant treasure trove that was momentarily waiting for his growth. If he could completely fuse with this sword art seed from Hua, it would be equivalent to being in the same sword realm as her. He only needed to absorb enough physical attributed souls to improve, then his battle efficiency would have a tremendous leap after 1 year. Hua was a third-ranked sword maiden. However, she was not your ordinary third rank. She was like the most invincible and tyrannical third-rank sword maiden to have ever existed. Even though the green hippo was also a third-rank beast, even if Hua was alone, she could kill 10 of them. Amazing, it's truly worthy of being Hua's seed. After 100 breaths and having adjusted his body, Yunshi felt that he was finally able to move. Even though he could only stand creakily and was quickly drenched with his own sweat, but Yunshi felt like he just obtained a new life. First-rank swordsman level. Should he be enlisted for the army, he would have jumped over a recruit rank and directly became a platoon leader rank. Wherever it was in the god's domain, a promotion was extremely difficult for people who took a professional soldier's career. Just take the sword god domain for example. Most male martial artists/cultivators/swordsmen are always practicing sword arts all year round, and sometimes, out of 100 people, only one person is able to become a first-rank swordsman before they turn 30 years old and become an officially ranked swordsman. And now, take the White Lotus sword domain where Yunshi lived. The first requirement when recruiting disciples to enter the Sword Palace was that one must enter the first rank before they reach 18. The disciples who cannot achieve this threshold will be expelled from the Sword Palace directly. A 16-years-old first-rank swordsman, although Yunshi was not on par with such a peerless genius like Hua, if he were to be compared to other mortals, he could also be called as a genius. At least in this small town, only a few youths could achieve this standard in the same generation. As for the second-rank swordsmen, they were the ones who took the leadership in the army. They were the core of the military force, and it was certain that they would at least be ranked as a captain. If one was still young and had great potential, he could even directly become a regiment commander. After gaining sufficient experience and skills in strategy and tactics, the general's position would not be a dream anymore. And the last rank of the mortal grade, which meant third-rank swordsmen like Hua, they could even fight 1,000 enemies. No, if it was Hua, she could definitely battle against enemies numbering in the tens of thousands. Even if she were to be surrounded by such a mighty force, she could fly out using that heavenly flying sword, beginner level, and then strike back and forth to kill and kill again. She could advance and strike 7 times and then escape easily like there was no one on the battlefield. Even the strongest person in the mortal grade level probably cannot be compared to a hero rank and a peerless genius such as Hua. Yunshi was standing in the bathroom and receiving massive information from Hua's seed while cleaning the filth on his body. It seemed that because Yunshi had absorbed the green hippo's spirit and used it as a shortcut to enhance his physical fitness, strength and toughness, the phenomenon when he was breaking through into the first rank was much more violent than normal. Complete muscles in his body were twitching and suffering under extreme convulsions. After washing and cleaning his body, Yunshi carried the star spirit, Mayor, in his bosom and washed her body from top to bottom. Ah! Woof! Mayor, who was being touched and brushed by Yunqi's hands, voiced out shy and happy voices. Her smooth golden fur was unlike that of ordinary dogs, which became unsightly after being soaked, but instead became more bright and shiny. It's truly a star spirit. Looking at the water dripping from Mayor's golden hairs, Yunqi was somewhat dazed. Yes, this was not a dream. The occasionally twitching muscles he had, as well as the feeling of embracing this cute little golden retriever, clearly told him that this was not a dream. Ever since the night that he dreamt of that falling star, his life changed and became completely different from the past. He had inherited the legacy left by his previous reincarnation. But he, at the same time, also had to bear the consequences of his past lives' pack of lies. There was a dreadful 7th-rank apostle that had already descended to the sword god domain and might have started to search him all over its territory. Once he was to be discovered by that 7th-rank apostle, he would fall into a situation beyond redemption. This was absolutely not the same as tempering himself in that simple trial, of which he could resurrect again. Just thinking about what he saw in his dream, those 4 powerful ex-girlfriends in the starry sky, made him shiver. He didn't dare to imagine how miserable he would be if he were to fall in their hands. Mayor. What will happen in the future? As he lifted the star spirit with his hands, Yunqi sighed deeply. Woof! Mayor, who was unable to speak, stretched out her small tongue and licked Yunqi's wrist and let out a crying voice. Well, since you believe in me, so I must believe in you too. If I truly am the Star Child, then, I'm the only who can change my own destiny. While looking at Mayor's bright pure big eyes, Yunqi set firm his resolve and embraced the puppy star spirit, wrapping it with the bath towel and then went out of the bathroom. Good, I will start practicing. Upgrading, Yunqi had not even started to practice when his bedroom's door sounded with a bang sound from being kicked. Little Shi, get up quickly. A sword chi flashed and Yunqi's blanket flew into midair. This move was the perfect fusion between the speed and the motion trajectory of the sword blade. Had Yunqi still been under the blanket, he wouldn't even find out that this was done by a sword. For someone who practices sword arts, this move had already reached the peak and gone beyond the limit of an ordinary person. Well, it was very obvious. To be the one who can produce such a move, that would be none other than his childhood sweetheart, Hua Hua. Hua Hua, what make you visit my home so early this morning? Speaking while embracing Mayor, Yunqi spoke with a trace of guilt at his childhood sweetheart, who was standing at his door. Mayor didn't say anything about this. The trial was guided by the stars and the scenes in that special dream world were unlikely to be related to the outside world, right? As long as the trial was over, the people that were involved in the trial would naturally get out of that dreamland, and like spring dreams, there should be no traces left, right? Then again, seeing the menacing looks from his childhood sweetheart, could it be that she was aware of it? Chapter 17, Precious Mayor, Little Shi. Hua Hua found that Yunqi wasn't on his bed and turned around immediately. Then, she saw Yunqi who was half naked and only wrapped in a bath towel. Alas! Hua Hua was taught to be a lady of the sword since her childhood. She had no immunity in face of such a sudden impact. Hua Hua, wait. Yunqi understood his childhood sweetheart too well. He hurriedly found his clothes beside the bathroom, held Mayor in his arms and ducked into the bathroom to change clothes. After hearing Hua Hua's scream, several neighbors raised their heads and found that the sound was coming from the second floor of the bread shop. They showed both funny and annoyed expressions. That couple is squabbling again. Oh, it's a pity. They are such a perfect couple, but will have to break up. Several young boys of our town have quietly cried several times. If it's possible, I want to see little Yunqi's and Hua Hua's wedding. Hua Hua brandished her long sword in front of Yunxi. She showed her fantastic sword skill to cut down an unlucky mosquito's legs. What should I explain? Yunxi's eyes followed Hua Hua's sword up and down. In the past, he didn't understand it, but now he found that Hua Hua's control over the force of her sword had already reached its peak. If she wanted to cut down the mosquito's legs, she would never touch the mosquito's wings. When Hua Hua cut down the mosquito's slender legs, it was still flying. Buzz. When the mosquito found that something was wrong, it had flown several meters away and knocked into the wall. You betcha. Of course, I mean those several foxes who dared to attract you. I had a dream. I don't remember it clearly, but you became a playboy in it, Yunxi. No. It's just a dream, Hua Hua. Fastening on the stars as his shield, Yunxi lied fearlessly. To be precise, it wasn't a lie. For Hua Hua, who was unintentionally involved in his first trial, it was just a dream. So, in truth, a lie was the best explanation. Unfortunately, as his childhood sweetheart, she knew him more than himself. Besides, she had a godlike talent called jealousy radar, which wasn't able to be explained. No. There must be something wrong. I won't have a dream for no reason. Tell me, who is she? Where is she from? How many people are there? Hua Hua blocked Yunxi's way in a threatening manner. Her expression showed that she wouldn't give up until he told her the truth. You've got it all wrong. There is only this little dog staying with me. Yunxi had to lift up Mayer as his shield to defend Hua Hua's homicidal eyes. Woo! Mayer showed a pitiful look as she was lifted up by Yunxi. It wasn't a play. It was her true feeling. Compared to Yunxi, who knew nothing about famous dogs, Hua Hua's knowledge had a broader range. So after she looked carefully at Mayer in Yunxi's arms, she showed a look of disbelief. Little she, when did you start to feed a dog? Especially such a rare dog. To my knowledge, it's a special royal golden retriever from the Western Gods' domains, and would never grow up. What Hua Hua didn't say was that such a golden dog was a priceless good in the Western Gods' domain, and often had none for sale. In the entire Western God domains, only several royal families with the longest history had this kind of special, never-growing golden dogs. Every year, there would never be over 20 of these dogs on sale, and sometimes, there were only 8 or 9 dogs on sale. Their total amount had never exceeded 1,000. It wasn't contempt, but even if Yunxi were to sell his whole bread shop and the land, he would still be unable to buy a toe of this pure-blood royal golden dog. It was said that there were special blessings inside this kind of golden dog's blood. They would give special luck and fortune to its master. So, normally, they wouldn't train it. In the highest circles of the Western God domains, these never-growing golden dogs were always a symbol of high status. They were more precious than any diamond or gem. Every year, countless princesses, princes, and dukes wanted to one of these, but they never succeeded no matter what their method or relation was. No, I just found this homeless little dog last night on the roadside. Doesn't our town also have dozens of golden fur dogs? Yunxi looked at Mayer in his arms as sweat beads dropped down from his forehead. A homeless little golden dog. Hua Hua's expression looked like she was saying, "Don't kid me." Would any homeless golden little dog have such pure golden fur? It looked like real gold, the symbol of fortune and luck. Would the dogs in the town have such a pair of pure, black gem-like addicting eyes? Some stupid big yellow dog would never have such a special charm to catch everyone's eyes naturally. Maybe the local people of the Sky Sword domain didn't know it, but how would she misjudge it? This royal golden dog was known as a golden fairy, a fantastic creature everyone dreamed of in the Western God domains. Putting it bluntly, 10 of these small towns weren't worth the little golden dog in Yunxi's arms. If this kind of fantastic dog could be found on the roadside, perhaps in Western God domains, countless of people would wander around rivers, parks, and the wild to try to catch this kind of fantastic golden fairy. As Hua knows it, in the entire Western God domains, this kind of fantastic dog was always on the verge of extinction. Every year, many people worried about the amount of these cute fantastic creatures, and for this, they showed no hesitation to use some taboo methods to produce descendants in order to save this race. Yunxi. You picked this dog on the roadside. It was equal to picking up a gold hill on the roadside. Something was wrong. There must be something wrong. Wait, this smell, Hua sniffed. Last night's indistinct dream suddenly became clear. The milky aroma, sweet and intoxicating. She didn't have this odor. A strange odor. It was not from Miley, Alphyllis, or Yili. It was a more sweet, heartwarming odor. How? It's from this little dog. By following the smell, finally, Hua found the suspect who made her unable to sleep until early morning. Yes, it's from Mayor. You must be misunderstanding something. This time, Yunxi was so thankful that Mayor was in his bed in the form of a little golden dog. If Mayor was in her human form, staying together with him in the bed, and a jealous Hua found out, what would happen next? Just imagining it made Yunxi unable to stop shivering. It's really from this little dog, Hua sniffed and finally relaxed. However, in this way, this little golden dog who was named Mayor was even more valuable than before. Chapter 18, Yunxi's potential as a royal blood golden dog whose body had a special aroma. They were rare creatures above all rare creatures, the sweetest honey. Even princesses, princes, and dukes were not able to easily cast a look at them, not to mention owning one. Originally, they were rare. The chance to breed such a special individual was even more outrageously low. There wouldn't be over 5 golden dogs that good in the entire Western God domains. Little she, where did you find this little dog? The more she observed the little golden dog, the more unique characteristics Hua found. In front of the door of my shop. The little guy was hungry and ran in, so I gave it several pieces of bread crusts, then it got close to me. I think it's pitiful, so I decided to keep it. Yunxi lied about Mayor's story and nervously looked at Hua. What bad luck. Had Hua found something? Indeed. Mayor wasn't a golden dog. She was a star fairy, an unique being. She was 1,000,000 times more precious than any special breed golden dog. You fed it bread crusts. Hua wordlessly looked at Mayor happily staying in Yunxi's arms. The princesses in the Western God domains always dreamed of having a royal blood golden dog. If they knew what Yunxi used to feed this little honey, they would scream loudly. In the Western God domains, these golden dogs who had royal blood were also known as golden fairy. They were fed precious milk cakes from their puppyhood. They would never put their feet in soil, for fear that the soil would dirty their beautiful golden fur. The milk cakes were made from the best quality milk. These prideful golden princesses wouldn't take a look at any milky cakes lower than a 5th rank. No one knew the reason, but nobody saw any male dogs with the blood of golden fairy. They were all doggy princesses. So, these little cuties had a nickname, Golden Princess. Yunxi was a 3rd-rank baker. Even if he made dessert using the best ingredients and production method, presenting it to the real royal golden princesses, he would get nothing but their supercilious eyes. The prideful golden fairies were really charming. No girl could escape from their charm after touching these Pokemon-like fantastic creatures. In her childhood, Hua once hugged such a golden fairy, so she knew pretty well that the one in Yunshi's arms was of the highest grade. If he sold this little guy, Mayor, the fans of the Golden Fairy, the princesses of the Western God domains would definitely raise a ruckus. Look. It likes bread. It's not that hard to feed it. As Yunshi didn't know that Hua Hua misunderstood Mayor's identity, he picked up bread crumbs beside his bed and put them in front of Mayor. Munch munch. Mayor licked Yunshi's hands, no, the bread crumbs, again and again, with a happy smile. Now, she could stay with Master, help Master warm his bed and lick her master. What a happy life. Strange. It's not picky about food. As she looked at Mayor happily licking the breadcrumbs, Hua Hua was confused about her judgment. In the Western God domains, the golden princesses were more pampered than real princesses. She never heard of any golden princess that would be able to eat rough breadcrumbs with such a happy face. Maybe she did make a mistake. This little golden dog just looks like a golden princess, but actually, it would grow up. Was it simply a cute, but a common golden dog? Ah. Mayor, come here. Let's shake hands. Yunshi asked Mayor to sit down as she reached out her little paws. As Yunshi's personal star fairy, Mayor had a special, unspoken consensus with Yunshi and didn't need any training. Once Yunshi said, "Shake hands," she quietly sat down and stretched out her little paw, softly patting Yunshi's small hand. Mayor. She is Hua Hua, my childhood sweetheart. And the best genius. Yunshi smiled, introducing his childhood sweetheart to his star fairy. Mayor put out her tongue and ran towards Hua Hua, then enthusiastically licked her palms. Good girl, well, she really doesn't look like a golden princess. A good little guy, maybe I made a mistake. Looking at Mayor's face, she then remembered the proud, reserved golden dog her childhood self tried to hug. Hua Hua had to admit that Yunshi's Mayor had a better character than those imperious golden princesses who would only let the princesses tirelessly follow them around. Could be fed by bread crumbs, understood how to shake hands, and was fervent and active. Hua Hua knew no golden princesses that would act like this. Yunshi was really lucky to find this golden princess-like, cute and obedient little guy. Hua Hua, I also want to talk to you. Taking the chance when Hua Hua was still addicted to Mayor's special ability glamorous golden dog, Yunshi launched an attack at his childhood sweetheart. What? In the face of the combined cheat of Yunshi and Mayor, Hua Hua was a little unprepared. She had already forgotten her goal before she broke into the room. I want to learn sword skills from you. That wasn't a lie, rather, a sincere desire of Yunshi's. After obtaining Hua Hua's seed, he became aware of the gap between him and the town's sword genius. The gap was so deep that it appeared to have no bottom. The more of the seed he understood from his childhood sweetheart, the more he would grasp Hua Hua's formidable strength. She was the true genius of geniuses, born to be above all others. She would be a hero or someone who had a higher place in the world. You finally understand. Hua Hua was not surprised, but rather, she had on a face of longing. I knew that one day, you would be able to bring out your hidden potential. Yunshi, you possess a special ability that no one can see. However, this ability is awfully strange and has been suppressing you. Now, at last, it has awakened. There was such a thing. Yunshi was surprised to hear Hua Hua say that he had potential. Well, I'm absolutely not wrong. Although you were incapable of bringing out your abilities and there were no traces of a seal, I knew that once you turned 18, you would amaze the world. 18 years old. Yunshi remembered that Hua Hua did remind him of this thing once. At that time, Hua Hua said, "Little Shi, don't lose your heart. You will become strong after you grow up. I'll be waiting for you, forever." You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.